Chapter 373. The fragrance filled Mount Song like the unearthed juices from a 1,000-year-old wine cellar. The sweet fragrance assailed the nostrils, as though divine medicine and immortal wine had been mixed together. The fragrance spread into one's spirit. Most importantly, it stimulated one's taste buds and sense of smell, causing saliva to gush out from the base of one's tongue. Their stomachs were rumbling nonstop as they felt a sense of hunger. A beautiful Western reporter cried out in alarm. "What kind of food is this? I can't hold on any longer. Heavens, I've tasted delicacies from all over the world, but I've never had such a craving. I can't wait to enjoy this gluttonous feast. This is a fatal temptation." She flung her long golden hair about. Her fair and exquisite face was full of astonishment, and her dark blue eyes were wide open. This wasn't an exception. Many evolved beings were swallowing their saliva, with saliva flowing out of their mouths. Actually, according to the records, human flesh is very fragrant after being roasted. It can even attract wild beasts from several kilometers away. Up until now, the people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave still didn't believe that Chu Feng could win. They felt that it was unreliable. How could a crippled person defeat an extraterrestrial expert? Perhaps the Great Woods Temple's Vajra Bodhi tree has blossomed and fully matured, someone said. Some people revealed astonished expressions. They felt that it was quite possible, and this was more reasonable. In any case, there's no way Chu Feng can defeat the Dark Rock King. That's an extraterrestrial expert with 8 severed shackles. The two aren't on the same order of magnitude. They can't be compared. The person from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave who made this prediction was firm in his stance. However, it sounded like he was feeling guilty and was trying to cheer himself up. That was because he was afraid that something shocking would happen. That would cause some of his beliefs to collapse. At this moment, many people from all over the world were watching the live broadcast and paying close attention to Mount Song. Now, they were all astonished after hearing the reporter's cries of surprise. Unfortunately, their taste buds and sense of smell, as well as the enticing smell of food, couldn't be transmitted to them through the screen. It's a monkey. Very soon, people saw the figure walking out of the domain. It was a white-furred ape. It's not Chu Feng. I knew it. No matter how powerful he is, he can't defy the heavens. Moreover, he's crippled. It's too difficult to rely on domains to win. The people of the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. The blonde reporter rushed over immediately. She was very bold and asked enthusiastically, "Excuse me, what's the matter with the fragrance in your temple? Oh my God, I'm so unreserved. I'm almost drooling. Can you invite me in as a guest?" This youthful and sexy female reporter was quite proactive and couldn't wait to barge in. There were also other revolvers who spoke. Where's Chu Feng? Was he killed by the Dark Rock King? The fruit on Dalan Temple's Vajra Bodhi ancient holy tree has ripened, right? Now, all the people watching a live broadcast were staring at the screen and watching seriously. They were also curious and wanted to know the real situation. The ape opened its mouth, but its speech was unclear because its mouth was actually full of food. It walked out while eating. The blonde reporter cried out in alarm. "God, the fragrance in your mouth is too strong. I want nothing more than to snatch the food from the tiger's mouth." "Oh no, it's the ape's mouth. This is a sin." The group of people was also dumbfounded. When the ape opened its mouth was full of multicolored light. The flesh looked sparkling and translucent, but it was also exceptionally smooth and tender. For a moment, everyone felt a headache coming on. That was definitely not human flesh, nor was it the holy tree's fruit. After discarding these two possibilities, there was only one answer left. Everyone felt dizzy at the thought of this possibility and felt like they were about to go crazy. Some evolvers revealed astonished expressions. Could it be that Chu Feng had successfully butchered the rock and roasted it? Was there still justice in this world? Some people were staring blankly, and their throats were moving continuously. Their mouths were dry as they tried to swallow their saliva. This world was too crazy. A crippled Chu Feng had actually defied the heavens? Some people found it hard to believe. Their mouths were wide open and their expressions were stiff. Some people felt dizzy. The person from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave felt his mind rumble as he mumbled, "Impossible." From his point of view, Chu Feng had been killed by the Rock King and then chopped up and roasted. That was the only logical outcome. The other results were too absurd. At this time, the beautiful reporter was conversing with the ape. "God, please forgive me. I really can't help it. I really want to eat rock meat. Mr. Ape, please tell me, is this the meat of that extraterrestrial?" "It's rooster meat," replied the ape. "Rooster meat? Who are you trying to fool?" The group of people stared at it in a daze. They felt that its words were too unreliable. Now, countless people were watching the live broadcast from all over the world. They were all confused, and some people wanted nothing more than to rush into the camera and give the ape a slap. "I knew it. Things aren't that simple," the obstinate person from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave blurted out. But soon, he wanted to slap himself. Why was his mouth so cheap? Even he felt that he was being stubborn. As expected, the ape's next words struck mercilessly at the bottom of his heart. Chu Feng said that this is rooster meat. It spoke with a serious expression, and this caused the group of people to become indignant. Following which, a commotion broke out around Mount Song. At this point, everyone knew that Chu Feng had won. He had defeated the Dark Rock King and roasted him. How heaven-defying was this? At the same time, the people watching the live broadcast were all shaken. The extraterrestrial had been defeated and roasted. The whole world was speechless. Not long ago, people were still worried and gloomy. They felt that this rock was too terrifying. It was 800 meters long and could blot out the sun. No one could match it. After all, it had conquered Mount Song as soon as it appeared. It had easily suppressed one of the most powerful experts of the East, the Elder Ape, with 8 severed shackles. It was simply a synonym for undefeatable. It had only been a few days, but a crippled demon King Chu had appeared and climbed the mountain while everyone was looking down on him. He had roasted the rock. "Croak, this rooster meat is too delicious." The toad appeared with a large piece of golden meat in his hand. He was chewing on it proudly. Countless people from all over the world were watching, including many top-grade research organizations. Their eyes were glowing with green light. That was an extraterrestrial species, the rock of ancient myths and legends. Its flesh and blood were priceless. Currently, some organizations had discovered a vague, evolutionary path through research on mutated creatures. They wanted nothing more than to capture the most powerful creatures in the world and gain a deeper understanding of them. "Mr. Toad, may I ask how Chu Feng defeated the extraterrestrial demonic bird?" the beautiful reporter asked. Of course, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but stare at the tender golden meat. "Please call me a divine beast." The toad corrected her in a serious manner. He was justifying himself in front of the whole world, but no one believed him. Everyone broke into laughter. "Divine beast, please tell us the results of the battle." The blonde reporter gave him some face. "Chu Feng is just like me. He's peerless, magnificent, and exceptionally enchanting. Amen. He can be considered a genius seen only once in 100,000 years. After seeing that bird, he slapped it to death." The toad's tone was aggressive and boastful. People might believe it if it was humble, but this attitude made them suspicious. After a moment of daze, they felt that it was full of lies and that there wasn't a single word of truth in it. Many evolved beings from all over the world had arrived. There was also a fair number of media personnel. They were no longer afraid because they knew the rock had been killed. All of them swarmed forward to ask questions. Chu Feng finally appeared. He was even more exaggerated. His face was flushed red from eating, and his pores were gushing with golden radiance. The rich energy couldn't be digested and was seeping out continuously. At the same time, even his body was emitting an alluring fragrance. Just how much rock meat had he eaten to cause such a reaction? During the questioning, Chu Feng said, "I subdue people with virtue. The Dark Rock King felt deeply guilty and directly committed suicide in front of me. Everyone from Mount Song, #yin%, spectators from all over the world, Hashtag yin%. Could he be any more unreliable? It's true. I hate violence and don't like to use force. I reasoned with the Dark Rock King and convinced him to mend his ways. Speaking up to this point, Chu Feng stuffed another piece of delicious meat into his mouth. It was so delicious that it made people's tongues drool, and he ate while talking in front of everyone. Everyone was speechless. Against violence? You were called Demon King Chu in the past, and were viewed as a great demon by many beast races. Moreover, you spoke so grandly and with such a benevolent appearance. But now, you're eating rock meat. You glutton. I'm here to fulfill my promise. Come, come, come. I'll treat everyone to a roasted bird. Chu Feng waved his hand, following which a continuous stream of apes walked out in pairs, carrying large pieces of meat. Multicolored light blossomed as Mount Song was drowned in this irresistible fragrance. Afterward, the group of people disregarded their image and charged forward without a word to divide up this rare delicacy. The whole of Mount Song was immediately thrown into an uproar. Very soon, even more evolved beings rushed over. Not to mention such a peerless delicacy. Even if it tasted bad, they had to enjoy it just because it was a legendary rock. It was bound to contain some mysterious energy. Eating more of this kind of thing might even help them evolve. Oh God, this is too delicious. My tongue is about to melt. Mount Song was in complete chaos. Everyone was a glutton. Even some people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave had gone up the mountain to join in the division. Naturally, they avoided Chu Feng because they didn't want to be too embarrassed. Hello everyone, I'm Ruth. I'm broadcasting live from Mount Song. Oh God, this is too delicious. Please allow me to broadcast while eating. The beautiful reporter was quite valiant. Her mouth was full of rock meat, but she didn't forget to shout at the camera. This was a gluttonous feast. Now, the whole world was dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? The entire mountain was filled with gluttons. People from all over the world were speechless as they stared at the live broadcast and watched them fight over the food. The scene was so beautiful that it hurt the eyes. The spectators were all staring blankly. Very soon, people from all over the world saw some familiar figures on the live broadcast. They were actually famous people from the East and West. They were actually fighting over the food and eating heartily. They had joined the ranks of the gluttons. These scenes were too intoxicating. This was a live broadcast to the whole world. Famous people from all walks of life were fighting over the food. At the peak of Mount Song, the toad had returned to the Great Woods Temple and was threatening the half-dead Dark Rock King. You still won't submit? You'll be stripped naked with not a single hair left. Do you want to be broadcasted to the whole world? I can help you out and let you go in a battle naked. Outside, Chu Feng was announcing that he was going to recompile the gourmet rankings. Very soon, he saw the people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave and said, "Hey, where's your princess? She lost the bet. She's mine now." At this time, many cameras were aimed at Chu Feng and then at the people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave. They wanted to watch the commotion and report it without restraint. Princess Lin had also ascended the mountain. She was just about to rope in Chu Feng because she felt that he was evil and possessed extraordinary abilities. In the end, she just happened to hear his words and turned to leave. Over there, some reporters also discovered that the cameras were aimed directly at Princess Lin and exposed her to the scene. This immediately caused a wave of astonished cries. At this time, many people from all over the world saw her true appearance and were immediately shaken. That was because this girl was simply too beautiful. She could be said to be devastatingly beautiful and exceptionally breathtaking. But very soon, Chu Feng's voice rang out and somewhat destroyed the mood. Chapter 374. Even though Qi Lin was quite open-minded, she still wanted to hide from the live broadcast. That was because she knew this was a global event and that people from all over the world were paying attention. It was a terrible feeling to gamble herself away under the watchful eyes of so many people. In the blink of an eye, she had become quite open-minded in certain aspects. Princess Lin, who had once viewed Chu Feng as a hunting target, couldn't bear it any longer and fled without a trace. Hey, don't run. Keep your word, Chu Feng shouted from behind. If a genius with 6 severed shackles wanted to escape, it wouldn't be enough even if the people filming her were evolved beings. She immediately vanished from the camera. This is a missing person notice. Whoever sees or picks her up, remember to hand her over to me. She's someone I want. Chu Feng waved his hand at the people. Within the dense forest, Princess Lin rolled her eyes and ground her teeth. These words were truly unpleasant to hear. What did he mean by seeing or picking her up? Did he really think she was a lost kitten or puppy? Within the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave, a group of people was furious. This fellow was too direct. He really wanted to take Qi Lin away. This was the true princess of the North Pole. However, no one dared to stick their heads out. Even people as powerful as them, descendants of descenders, didn't dare to cause trouble for Chu Feng. The truth was right before their eyes. The Dark Rock King had been killed and roasted by Chu Feng. Who wouldn't be apprehensive after such an accomplishment? Not to mention them. Even those hibernating demons of the North Pole would have to think twice before taking action. That was because this demon king, Chu, was truly unfathomable. Even up until now, people had no idea how he had killed an extraterrestrial with 8 severed shackles. Just how powerful is he? In the mountains, Princess Lin asked a mysterious person wearing a cloak that covered his entire body, including his head. This was an expert from the North Pole and a true descender. Originally, he had wanted to ascend Mount Song and negotiate with the Dark Rock King to avoid a conflict. Along the way, if Chu Feng submitted to the North Pole, he could also help put in a few words and try to protect his parents. Of course, he was representing the descenders who had arrived earlier to negotiate with the new descenders. This was the most important thing. Everything else had to be put aside and taken care of in passing. However, Chu Feng had directly captured the Dark Rock King. This had exceeded his expectations and caused the expert from the North Pole to become absent-minded. He stared at Chu Feng from afar and replied to Princess Lin, "I can't sense his powerful aura from afar. He looks very ordinary, but to be able to kill the Peng King, he's definitely not simple. Could he have used a domain to trap and kill the Rock King?" Princess Lin was suspicious. "I can't rule out this possibility, but I'm more inclined to believe that his personal strength is astonishing and that he wasn't crippled at all. Moreover, his evolution speed is very fast," said the cloaked descender. In fact, the whole world was in a heated discussion about Chu Feng's strength. The extraterrestrials were tormented, roasted, and eaten. This displayed Demon King Chu's strength. This kind of combat strength was simply heaven-defying. However, people couldn't understand. He was clearly crippled, so how could he kill the Rock King? There were also people like Princess Lin who suspected that he had used a domain to trap and kill the Rock King. At this time, the outside world wasn't calm. People from all parties were discussing this matter. From ordinary people to the top corporations, everyone wanted to know the truth. Some corporate powers couldn't remain calm. They had just gained some confidence and felt that Chu Feng wasn't a threat at all. They even felt that they could look down on him. In the end, they witnessed such an explosive incident. Some powers were even somewhat terrified. They began to recall whether they had offended Chu Feng recently. They were afraid that he would come knocking on their door to settle accounts. At the end of the discussion, many people wiped off their cold sweat. They felt that Chu Feng was most likely an expert with a black heart. He had deceived everyone and was waiting for them to jump into his trap. This black goods. Fortunately, the Dark Rock King descended and helped us force out his true strength. Otherwise, we'll all be in big trouble in the future. That's right, this is a fraud. He's not a good person at all. He's been waiting for us to jump into his trap. He lacks morals. People from all walks of life were discussing this matter. All of them felt a lingering fear. This was especially true for some of the corporate upper echelons. They were truly alarmed, and their souls almost jumped out of their bodies. They didn't want this demon to visit them again because he was too cruel. Naturally, there were also people who didn't think so. They believed that he was crippled. It was just that his talents and domains were too shocking and that he had already walked a different path. Some people firmly believed that Chu Feng had killed the Dark Rock King with his domains. The two voices caused a disagreement. leading to a heated discussion. In any case, Chu Feng's strength was extremely shocking and had attracted the attention of the whole world. It was impossible not to pay attention to him. Number one under the heavens. So much so that some people shouted this slogan. They felt that Chu Feng was the most powerful evolver or perhaps the most powerful domain master. His strength was unfathomable. Chu Feng's expression darkened after hearing this kind of slogan. Some people were trying to kill him through flattery. They didn't have good intentions. Presently, he abandoned everyone and returned to the Great Woods Temple to interrogate the Dark Rock King personally. He wanted to obtain valuable information and force it to submit. That was because he didn't really want to fight to the death with the Descenders. After killing this big bird, it would definitely cause a raging storm. In the future, no matter which Descender appeared, they would have to be vigilant against him and even have to weigh him. The first native to kill an extraterrestrial would, from a certain perspective, be blacklisted. He would be taken care of by the outer realm entities. This wasn't a good thing. As such, he really wanted to subdue the Dark Rock King. If he could make it withdraw its hostility and form a tacit understanding, then the other extraterrestrials wouldn't have to keep targeting him. However, the Dark Rock King was very unyielding. It sneered repeatedly when Chu Feng lowered his stance and no longer mentioned subduing it. Instead, he wanted to negotiate on equal terms. You also know fear? I'll tell you the truth. There are a total of 4 people from our planet, and I'm the weakest. If something happens to me, the other 3 will surely find you when they descend, said the Dark Rock King coldly. Chu Feng naturally knew who those 3 entities were. One was a golden-haired man with divine wings on his back. The other was a graceful purple-robed beauty, and the last one was a brightly colored tiger. The outer space probes had captured their figures before, and they were currently in satellite orbit. I can consider letting bygones be bygones if you let me go. The Dark Rock King suddenly said this. That was because it had just felt a wave of terror and a chill. Its domineering attitude seemed to have aroused Chu Feng's dissatisfaction. He wanted to go all the way and might really have to eliminate it. No need. I've thought about it carefully. I think it's better to send you on your way. Chu Feng said coldly. His attitude had undergone a great change. He felt that this rock was already irredeemable. It wouldn't submit, nor would it forget the enmity with a smile. It would surely fight to the death with him once the other 3 descended. Rather than leaving such a troublemaker alive, it was better to just kill it and save energy. Don't. I'll resolve our enmity. No discord, no concord. How about we just let bygones be bygones? In the end, the Dark Rock King became anxious and no longer acted tough. You should just go on your way in peace, Chu Feng said with a dark expression. He had made up his mind. The Dark Rock King said hurriedly, You have to know that you'll be in a difficult situation if the other 3 descend with me. We'll all be your friends if you can reconcile with me. All of its domineering and cold arrogance had been withdrawn. I'll just kill them if they dare come looking for me. I'll wipe out all the people from your planet and not leave a single one alive. Chu Feng said straightforwardly. You're walking on a tightrope. You're digging your own grave. The Dark Rock King cried out loudly. He really didn't want to die. All of his domineering attitude was based on the fact that Chu Feng didn't have any murderous intent. Now, he was also afraid. I'm someone determined to hunt fairies and capture divine sons and saintesses. Why would I be afraid of these things? I've been living in seclusion recently and have even gotten used to my current comfort. Come, if the outer realm descenders are all similar to you, I'll stew as many as you come and roast them every day. And then, of course, I can't consider capturing the goddesses alive. Chu Feng's words dumbfounded the Dark Rock King. He was thoroughly frightened because he was actually afraid of death and didn't want to lose his life. Are you really going to kill him? The toad asked. There's no other way. This bird isn't loyal and is destined to become an enemy. It's better to kill him earlier than later. With that, Chu Feng walked forward and spat out a snow-white metallic sword intent. With a puff, it pierced through the giant creature's forehead. He didn't dare cut off its head because he was afraid of blood flowing out. There was no telling how much blood the 800-meter demonic bird had in its body. If it were to gush out, it would truly be like a river. In the distance, the old ape was flabbergasted. He felt that Chu Feng was too straightforward and killed the extraterrestrial divine rock, just like that. The group of young apes was quite frightened, but they soon revealed expressions of worship toward Chu Feng. This was truly a domineering demon king. At this time, Chu Feng's communicator rang. It was Yi Qing Ru, Ouyang Qing, and Du Huaijin. Boss, are you going to ascend to the heavens? You almost scared us to death by killing extraterrestrials. Following which, people from all walks of life began to find him. His communicator rang incessantly. Chu Feng picked them up and told them to come quickly. There was too much rock meat, and it would go bad if they didn't eat it. Afterward, he contacted Yellow Cattle and asked if he had any good ideas. It would be a waste to let an 800-meter divine rock rot. Even if he put it into a spatial bottle, the energy contained in its flesh would eventually disappear. Refine its blood. That's a good thing. It contains strands of ancestral rock true blood and will be very useful after refining it. Yellow Cattle told him not to waste it. He was in a good mood. He said that he, the Black Yak, and the others were about to come out of seclusion. Not only had they recovered, but they had also found mutant fruits and severed their sixth shackle. Chu Feng was very happy. Yellow Cattle's strength would be absolutely astonishing once his realm was raised. That was because he had grasped an ultimate breathing technique and possessed extraordinary talents. The ancestral rock's true blood can be combined with mutant fruits to refine treasured medicines, Yellow Cattle told Chu Feng. Good. Everything's settled now. You should come out of seclusion as soon as possible. I might be able to help you break through before long. I myself might also be able to transform one step further, Chu Feng said happily. Now, the extraterrestrials were about to descend one after another. If his strength increased once again, he wouldn't need to fear any challenges. Next, Chu Feng dragged the toad and the old ape to action. They began to refine the Dark Rock King's true blood according to Yellow Cattle's method and refined it in every way possible. Apparently, this project was a bit big. They succeeded in the middle of the night. They couldn't drag it out for too long because the energy was flowing away at every moment. In the end, Chu Feng only obtained a small jar of golden blood. It was shockingly viscous and dazzling. This was the true ancestral rock blood. This thing could actually be refined one step further. This so-called ancestral blood was too precious and couldn't possibly be stored in the bodies of future generations. It looked like a small jar, but the amount of true ancestral blood was much smaller than this. However, Chu Feng felt that there was no need to continue refining it. In any case, the medicine still needed to be steamed. That night, Chu Feng left Mount Song with his parents. In truth, the old ape had also retreated to travel with Chu Feng. They were worried that the extraterrestrials would directly come to Mount Song if they descended once more. It was better for them to avoid the brunt of the attack and live in seclusion elsewhere. At the very least, Chu Feng felt that they should eliminate the other three beings that came from the same planet as the Dark Rock King first. Number 1 under the heavens. Extra, extra. Demon King Chu has risen in defiance of the heavens and is aiming for the throne of the number 1 expert. This kind of news spread like wildfire within a single day. Everyone was in heated discussion. Chu Feng's expression darkened. He felt that some people were purposely trying to push him into the limelight. If the extraterrestrials were to descend, they would definitely look for him first. Chu Feng told his parents and the old ape to live in seclusion while he and the toad hopped out and appeared in front of the world. Princess Lin immediately sought him out and contacted him. Since you've lost the bet, you've delivered yourself to my doorstep? Chu Feng asked. I'm a fairly honest person. Of course, I'm also a woman, not a gentleman. That's why part of our bet is acceptable. The other part is like the cool breeze. In short, we can keep in touch and move about more. Princess Lin was as transcendent as a banished immortal when she wasn't smiling. Once she did, her eyes would be large and limpid, and her smile would be like a blooming flower. She was like a charming demoness. Now, she was smiling brilliantly. Her rippling eyes were moving and full of charm. You're acting shamelessly. Chu Feng didn't give in at all and spoke directly. Princess Lin rolled her eyes and said, "Who asked you to be so dishonest and hide so many things? It always makes people uneasy. Can you tell me how you killed the Dark Rock King? I'm an evolved being. My strength is number one under the heavens." Chu Feng boasted shamelessly. This made Qi Lin suspicious. She didn't believe these words. She didn't even try to avoid arousing suspicion. She directly grabbed Chu Feng's hand and tested him herself. In the end, she was stunned and said, "You're not in the king-level domain?" The black and white grinding stone in Chu Feng's body could disperse energy at any time. This made him look very ordinary and unfathomable. This caused Qi Lin to become suspicious and puzzled. She began to waver. Could it be that Chu Feng had won by relying on domains? Later on, she invited Chu Feng solemnly. She said that the people from the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave were working together with a number of corporations to explore some famous mountains and great rivers. She invited Chu Feng to join them and would give him priority in benefits, such as picking mutant fruits. Exploring the mountains and rivers was one of the reasons. Additionally, she wanted to confirm just how profound Chu Feng's attainments and domains were. This time, the North Pole side brought a number of experts, and their lineup was even stronger than last time. Chu Feng readily agreed. Their first stop was Mount Zhongnan. This divine mountain was known as the number one blessed land and was also one of the ancestral lands of Taoism. Here, Chu Feng displayed his might. He broke through a portion of the domains and led them deeper into the mountain. In the end, several experts from the North Pole and a dozen or so from the corporations fell. Chu Feng picked 4 mutant fruits and told them that they couldn't go any deeper because this place was comparable to Mount Longhu. Their second stop was Mount Huangshan. This was a top-grade, famed mountain located among the 3 mountains and 5 peaks. It was famous since ancient times. The ancient said, "Return from the 5 peaks and don't look at the mountain. Return from Mount Huangshan and don't look at the peaks." Here, Chu Feng found a divine mutant fruit. He felt that it was enough to sever one's 7th or even 8th shackle. Unfortunately, the ancient tree was rooted in a mysterious domain and he couldn't enter. This time, experts from the North Pole fell and the corporations also suffered heavy casualties. Chu Feng and the toad were also wounded. Yellow cattle, the black yak, the Manchurian tiger, and the old donkey appeared after exiting Mount Huangshan. They shouted from afar, "Hey, who dares kidnap my brother? Do you think there's no one in Mount Kunlun? Hand over your life." In truth, both the corporations and the North Pole were on the verge of tears. They were filled with regret and felt that Chu Feng was a jinx. He had caused them to suffer great losses in just 2 stops. Chapter 375. After shouting loudly, the group began to run frantically. The black yak, the Manchurian tiger, and the old donkey were like 3 train engines, bringing with them flying sand and rolling stones. Astral winds swept through the land and snapped hundreds of grasses. Yellow cattle seemed to be 3 or 4 years old. His golden hair was as smooth as satin, and his face was fair and beautiful. His eyelashes were long, and his large eyes were filled with intelligence. He was bouncing up and down on the donkey's back. There was also a golden eagle in the air. Its wingspan was a couple 100 meters, casting a large shadow over the land. It broke through the sound barrier like a bomber. The corporate people felt dizzy. These were all ferocious birds and beasts with 6 severed shackles. Their energy was rising and falling like the tides. "Brother, are you all right?" The Manchurian tiger rushed forward and opened his bloody mouth, revealing a mouthful of dagger-like fangs. He asked Chu Feng. The corporate descendants nearby turned pale. "I'm fine. I only suffered some injuries on Mount Huang. It's no big deal," Chu Feng replied. He was extremely happy to finally see these people again. "Crow." The toad opened its mouth purely to seek attention. The black yak's entire body was glossy black, and his fur was sparkling. He looked like a primordial beast, glaring at the group with his large eyes. He stopped in front of the group and stared at them with an unfriendly expression. He pointed a hoof at them and said, "You guys have gone too far. You kidnapped my brother to the mountains to do manual labor and even injured him. To hell with the kidnapping. The corporate people cried out in their hearts. This was simply a jinx. It was terrifying to think about it. They were drenched in cold sweat after thinking about it for a moment. First of all, at Mount Zhijin in Jiangning, Chu Feng was nominally helping the various forces nurture their weapons. In the end, the flames of the revered cauldron burned countless people to death. For instance, the Black Dragon, second prince of the Southern Sea, was turned to ashes, while the old alien woman from Deity Biomedicals was burned to the point where only half of her body remained. Later on, during the Mount Qinling expedition, the corporate people were used as cannon fodder. Dozens of people were sacrificed, and even the extraterrestrial Li Kang was left with only a puddle of blood. Then came the trip to Mount Zhongnan and Mount Huang. They had just experienced it, and it couldn't get any worse. They didn't get anything, and a group of disciples disappeared from the world. Even the group of people from the North Pole had dark and gloomy expressions. That was because not only had some of their young disciples died, but even a few of their real extraterrestrials had died without a burial site. Only some bone dregs and pus and blood were left behind. The outcome was too tragic. The more they thought about it, the more chilled the people from the corporations and the North Pole felt. This wasn't just for show. This Chu Feng was simply a god of misfortune. Those who teamed up with him didn't have a good ending. If it weren't for the fact that there was no evidence, they would really suspect that Chu Feng was trying to commit murder. He had the demeanor of a lone star who would die wherever he went. After some people came back to their senses, their faces were green. They rejoiced that they were still alive. They really wanted to thank the god of misfortune for not killing them. It was too dangerous to walk with him, but fortunately, they were still alive. They would never bring him along to play in the future. There was simply no way for them to have a pleasant cooperation. Bringing Chu Feng along was equivalent to signing a death contract. It was too unlucky. Even the Manchurian tiger and the black yak were dumbfounded when the people from the corporations complained and laid out the facts. After some careful thought, they realized that this was truly evil. Don't speak irresponsibly. You guys are slandering my brother. Won't this ruin his business if word of this gets out? Who would dare find him to crack the famed mountains and great rivers? And men, let's just leave it at that. We'll strive for a pleasant cooperation next time, said the black yak. There won't be a next time. A certain corporate elder was covered in blood, and even his head was wrapped in bandages. He seemed quite agitated because he had personally experienced it. There wouldn't be a next time, even if he was beaten to death. Thump! The black yak was furious. He glared ahead and stomped on the ground with all his might. His bucket-thick front hoof ruthlessly stomped on the toad's body. Ayo! The toad let out a long howl and jumped up to fight out with him. Croak! God damn it, you spiced beef plate noodles. How unlucky. I've stepped on dog shit luck. I can step on a toad with just a casual stomp. This king is going to die from anger, the black yak said with a dark expression. The toad jumped up high and immediately unleashed an overbearing dragon shows remorse. Minotaur, who are you talking about? What are you talking about? If I don't beat you to death, I'll make you into stewed beef. The corporations and the people from the North Pole were astonished. Was this internal strife? They were looking forward to seeing the two ferocious beasts fight to the death. Chu Feng was flabbergasted. He hurriedly stopped them and shouted, "We're all on the same side." The toad's stomach bulged and his eyes were wide open. He was unconvinced and wanted to fight the black yak one-on-one. He said he would beat this minotaur into stewed beef. Frog, I'll beat you into a tadpole and go find your mother. The black yak raised his head and said with a disdainful expression, Shut up. If you make any more noise, I'll make you into a bullfrog feast. Chu Feng threatened. Brother, there's something wrong with your taste. Where's the promised divine beast? Who are you trying to fool? It's just a toad. The Manchurian tiger only wished for the world to be in chaos. He moved closer to fan the flames. Even the old donkey was restless. He raised his hooves and was itching to give it a try. He wanted to size up this so-called divine beast. This spineless coward's strength had increased greatly recently, and his courage had also grown. Stop messing around. In the end, The yellow cattle knocked him with a taut face. Only then did he calm down. Everyone, we'll meet again in the pugilistic world in the future. Chu Feng bid farewell to these people. This trip was not in vain. He was quite satisfied with the mutant fruits he had picked. It's best if we don't meet again, someone mumbled. No one could stand seeing someone die as soon as they met. I warn you. Come with me? Chu Feng teased and hinted at Princess Lin. Black lines immediately appeared on Princess Lin's white forehead. The group from the North Pole didn't look at Chu Feng kindly. This time, they had suffered great losses following him to explore the famed mountains and great rivers. If they weren't afraid of him and worried that he was a scammer, they would have given him a good beating and then kidnapped him to the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave. Let's go. Chu Feng said his goodbyes and sat on the toad's back. He patted its butt and sent it scurrying away. The group was speechless. Was this the ruthless person who had destroyed the Dark Rock King? No matter how they looked at him, his current appearance was quite inferior. However, no one dared to ridicule or look down on him. Now, the group felt as though they were sending off a god of plague. Yellow Cattle only talked to Chu Feng after they had gone far away. They had been hiding in the west all this time and had finally recovered. The benefits were great. They had evolved once again and consolidated their foundations. Additionally, Yellow Cattle, the Black Yak, and the others had all severed their sixth shackle. Their strength had increased dramatically. Yellow Cattle was quite pretty and looked to be about 3 or 4 years old. However, his combat strength was astonishing. He was invincible against opponents of the same level and had fought many battles in the West. Within his body was a half-material, half-energy medicine mortar left behind by a predecessor. It had been completely activated, and its effects were similar to the black and white grinding stone in Chu Feng's body. At this moment, in outer space, the golden-haired man with the mysterious snow-white back, the purple-robed beauty, and the multicolored tiger were all wearing unsightly expressions. That was because they had received a report that the Dark Rock King had been killed by a native. Some forces on Earth specifically contacted them through the space station in outer space, through the probes, etc., to communicate with them. Regardless of the time, there would be no lack of such people and powers. They would pledge allegiance to foreign countries, sell themselves, and work for the foreign races. Now, there were such people and powers. Moreover, it wasn't just one party. They had infiltrated the military and contacted the entities in outer space. They were doing their best to curry favor and inform them of everything. Chu Feng. That was why they had already heard of the name Chu Feng before even descending. They also knew about the Mount Song incident and were furious at this moment. Outsiders couldn't imagine how difficult it was to reach Earth. There were energy barriers and mysterious domains that selectively targeted outer realm entities. They could easily turn them into ashes. The Dark Rock King had gone through untold hardships and various dangers before finally landing on Earth and occupying a famed mountain. In the end, he was beaten to death and eaten by a native. As they saw it, this was a great humiliation. Slaughter him. Exterminate his entire race. A fierce tiger's spiritual roar came from outer space and almost tore the firmament apart. Not far away, the 4 demonic, godlike figures on the meteorites also opened their eyes at this moment. Currently, they had reached a temporary agreement with the golden-haired man and the fierce tiger. They hadn't descended during the past few days because they were discussing and dividing the benefits. Now, the snow-white winged golden-haired man, the purple-robed lady, and the fierce tiger had found them. They would descend one after another after a short exchange. Finally, they made a decision on that very day. Boom! In the end, the multicolored tiger roared and raised its head, shaking the outer space. All the major powers on the ground were astonished, and the higher-ups of each country were moved. This fierce tiger was about to devour the sky. Its aura was incomparably terrifying, as though it was about to swallow the moon. Roar! The tiger's roar shook the sky as the giant tiger swooped down toward Earth. Its body had expanded to 1,000 meters in length in the end as it charged into the atmosphere. During this process, it was obstructed by a mysterious energy. It roared, struggled, and emitted boundless suppressive might as it released astonishing energy, following which a meteorite tore through the sky and fell down. There was a demonic, godlike figure on it as it followed the 1,000-meter-long tiger to the ground. This scene was somewhat terrifying. Extraterrestrials are invading. Unimaginably powerful energy is surging through the atmosphere, causing the detection instruments to explode. On the ground, the military bases in charge of monitoring outer space were in chaos. The expressions of the higher-ups of each country and the leaders of the major powers had changed. The extraterrestrials had descended with great force. This time, boundless waves would surely arise. So much so that there might even be a terrifying rain of blood and a world-shocking massacre. Many people realized that Chu Feng was in for a great calamity. As long as the extraterrestrials successfully descended, they would definitely join forces to kill him. It was obvious that they had come for him this time. Chu Feng quickly hid. You're in big trouble. The demonic god and the tiger from outer space have descended to kill you. The old man from the Hollow Jade Temple, Lu Tong, immediately informed Chu Feng anxiously and urgently. He told him to hide in the mountains and escape as soon as possible. That was because he felt that things had gotten out of hand this time. 2 terrifying extraterrestrials had descended at the same time. Chu Feng definitely wouldn't be able to stop them. Following which, Linoi, Du Huaijin, the Dragoness, and some others urgently looked for Chu Feng and told him to hide. The news spread rapidly and everyone knew about it. After the news was leaked, the whole world became aware that the extraterrestrials were descending to attack and kill Chu Feng. However, Chu Feng was very calm at this moment. What's there to hide from? They'll definitely be injured when they descend. This is the best opportunity for me to kill them. He glanced at Yellow Cattle, the Black Yak, and the others and said, You guys leave first. Why are you leaving? Let's do it together. The Black Yak shouted, We'll take that Buddhist staff and kill the extraterrestrials. Yellow Cattle also waved her little hand, her beautiful face brimming with tyranny. Chu Feng's expression was solemn as he said, Golden Condor, you're also an expert with 6 severed shackles. You should be able to reach 6 times the speed of sound now. After confirming the location of the extraterrestrials' descent, you'll carry us there to kill them. Try to cover the entire planet within an hour. Of course, this was impossible. However, they had set a target. If they landed within the eastern borders, it was still possible to cover a large area within an hour. The extraterrestrials had descended, but Chu Feng wasn't afraid at all. He wanted to take the initiative and attack first. He wanted to kill his way over. Chapter 376. The ferocious tiger pounced forward. Its 1,000-meter body was as majestic as a mountain as it entered the atmosphere from outer space and suffered a terrifying energy corrosion. A large number of runes lit up in the air and interweaved into a net. They closed in on the ferocious tiger, carrying with them astonishing energy fluctuations in a bid to strangle it to death. Chi, blinding light, erupted in the sky as if a divine sea had exploded. Raging waves surged in all directions and surged towards the sky. The 1,000-meter-long ferocious tiger was obstructed. Meanwhile, behind it, there was a meteor that was burning, moving through the sky. It was extremely resplendent, as if a heavenly sun was smashing down. It carried a horrifying aura, erupting with intimidating radiance in this bright and clear world. On the meteorite, there was an unmoving humanoid figure clad in black metal armor. Even his head and face were covered, leaving only a pair of eerie and cold eyes exposed. The 2 extraterrestrial experts descended one after the other and charged towards the ground. Apparently, with the strength of their bodies, they wouldn't die even if they were smashed into a rocky mountain. What's more, they all had crudely made products on them, which were enough for them to fly. At this time, the strange phenomena in the sky were astonishing. The 2 extraterrestrial beings had descended one after the other and were charging towards the ground. This had long since attracted the attention of the entire world. After the news was leaked, The various countries didn't conceal it and began to broadcast the capture images. At this moment, countless people were staring at the screen nervously. The extraterrestrial invasion would, if nothing unexpected happened, result in a bloody revenge. One didn't need to think too much to know that they would target Chu Feng first and eliminate him. Chu Feng is finished, some people said. Some people began to speak. This ferocious tiger seemed even more imposing than the Dark Rock King when he descended. It seemed to be a level stronger. Behind it, the unmoving, demonic, godlike figure on the meteorite seemed even more terrifying as strands of energy clouds seeped out from it. The people and powers that had submitted to the outer realms had long since contacted the extraterrestrials and sold themselves to them. Now, they revealed faint smiles and appeared somewhat cruel. They hoped that the two extraterrestrials would successfully descend. From then on, it would be equivalent to having a powerful backer. This world will be overturned in the end. It's better to submit to some extraterrestrial experts earlier than to be suppressed. It's much better than resisting foolishly and living a comfortable life. Someone was muttering to himself with a cold expression, finding an excuse for his betrayal so that his heart could calm down. Among these people, there were some who were originally Chu Feng's enemies. They had endured for a long time, and now, smiles gradually appeared on their faces. Chu Feng, you are very strong. You could be considered a heaven-warping talent. You are just one person, yet you have suppressed us to the point where we can't even raise our heads. However, this time, it will be difficult for you to defy the heavens. It was because they saw the 1,000-meter long, vicious tiger swoop down, getting closer and closer to the ground. It broke free from the energy corrosion, broke through the symbol's obstruction, and was about to succeed. Meanwhile, that meteor burned, illuminating the sky dome. It also quickly approached, almost reaching a low altitude. This was very shocking. It meant that the two extraterrestrial life forms were about to successfully land. Chu Feng, it doesn't matter if you're pretending to be crippled or if there's really a problem and you're relying on the power of the domain. It's not worth bickering about now, because you're dead for sure. Oh, I really want to know how Chu Feng will resist. That's because it's all futile. I think he'll start fleeing and hide in the deep mountains and forests. Some people came to a conclusion. They believed that Chu Feng could only escape and that there was no other chance. However, they had never imagined that Chu Feng was crazy. He wanted to fight the entire East within an hour. He wanted to kill his way over as soon as he confirmed the two extraterrestrial life forms' landing location. He wanted to take the initiative to kill them. Will there be a problem? These are two experts, not just one. The Donkey King had a guilty conscience. It could be said that his rat guts had become weak at the critical moment. Yellow Cattle shot him a glance. His long eyelashes were trembling slightly, making him look like a tender doll. However, he was so calm that the old donkey's face turned red. It seems they're going to land in the east. Prepare to attack, Chu Feng said. Very well, let's do something big today. The Manchurian tiger replied. Brother Tiger, they're from your own family. Will you be able to attack when the time comes? The black yak asked. What are you talking about? Today, I'm going to place righteousness before family. The Manchurian tiger put on a righteous appearance, but he was actually pondering how to knock that ferocious tiger off its feet and seize the extraterrestrial tiger race's inheritance. The black yak cast him a sidelong glance and said, Brother Tiger, don't you blush when you say such things? Don't put on such a righteous appearance. It doesn't match your hoodlum temperament at all. Roar! The ferocious tiger roared through the skies like thunder. 1,000-meter-long extraterrestrial tiger fell from the skies of the east. The stripes on its body were glowing like interweaving bolts of lightning. The people on the ground were astonished. During this process, the tiger's roar reverberated and was clearly heard by the people as it approached the ground. However, something strange happened in the sky at this time. The meteorite was burning and suddenly exploded, transforming into a resplendent ball of light that burned the firmament. Roar! At this time, the demonic, godlike humanoid entity erupted with black light from its armor. Its energy was incomparably terrifying and unimaginably powerful. Even though it hadn't come close to the ground, it was enough to make many towering mountains tremble and even crack. One had to know that it was still quite high up from the ground. It could transmit such world-shocking energy. It was practically capable of destroying all living things. The people in charge of surveillance from every country turned pale. This demonic, godlike entity should be even more powerful than that ferocious tiger. It was absolutely terrifying. However, it had encountered great trouble. It was being corroded by the energy in the void. Otherwise, the 100-meter meteorite beneath its feet wouldn't have exploded. No! Suddenly, it cried out loudly. This was a spiritual roar that resounded through the skies. It was actually extremely terrified and seemed to be struggling violently. No one understood what was going on. This demonic, godlike figure exploded in the air. It was strangled by a mysterious rune and turned into a bloody mist, following which the blue flames transformed into energy in the form of red spider lilies. It burned in the void and turned his blood and broken bones into ashes. A powerful extraterrestrial entity was destroyed just like that. This stunned many people, especially those who had defected to Earth and wanted to rely on the extraterrestrial experts as their backing. At this moment, they were all dumbfounded. It was to the extent that some people didn't even have time to restrain their smiles. They were frozen in place, and their bodies were somewhat rigid. The more powerful the entity, the more difficult it was to descend. This was what Yellow Cattle had said before. They would have to pay a great price, and now it was true. Roar! The vicious extraterrestrial tiger went crazy because it was also entangled in trouble. It was enveloped by the light flames as it approached the ground, burning it until it roared and screamed miserably. A single mistake would turn it into ashes. Bang! In the end, it landed and smashed a huge crater into the ground. Earth and stones surged about like a tidal wave as it struck high into the sky. There was a crude product on its body that emitted light and wrapped around it. At the last moment, it didn't completely shake the ground. Otherwise, this entire area might have sunk in. Even so, this place was like a great canyon that had been smashed beyond recognition. The vicious tiger faced the sky and roared. Its voice shook hundreds of li. Its entire body was covered in blood. Although its injuries weren't light, its life wasn't in danger. Moreover, its origin wasn't harmed. I'm coming. I'll conquer. It leapt up and rushed out of the terrifying crater. Its 1,000-meter-long body stood towering on the ground. Its 1,000-meter-long body was like a great mountain as it roared at the sky. Its ferocious aura surged into the sky as it opened its bloody maw. It seemed like it could swallow all life on the ground. Reporting, this vicious tiger's energy value is abnormal. It has surpassed the Dark Rock King. The people from the relevant organizations were stunned after seeing the monitoring device. The extraterrestrial tiger's energy value was off the charts. According to initial estimations, it should be much stronger than the Dark Rock King. It might even be close to Severnine Shackles. Roar! The tiger's roar caused countless trees to collapse and leaves to explode. The entire area was shaking. It's very likely that one of its feet has already entered the ranks of severed 9 shackles. Perhaps it's because of its injuries. That's why it seems weaker than when it was in the sky and not at its peak after crashing to the ground. Someone made this judgment. This vicious tiger was injured at the waist and was trembling slightly as it walked. It was obvious that it was enduring the pain. Chu Feng, have you hidden properly? This is your last chance. Run as far away as you can while it hasn't recovered. Lu Tong was anxious. The others were also like this. They sent Chu Feng a message, telling him to temporarily hide and not face this terrifying extraterrestrial expert head-on. Chu Feng, I came down from outer space one step ahead in order to kill you. You native, I'll find you no matter where you run to. The tiger's roar traveled hundreds of kilometers. It was simply too powerful. This was tantamount to announcing its change in direction to the world. Fight the east in 1 hour. In another area, Chu Feng was sitting on the back of the golden condor. Additionally, the black yak, the Manchurian tiger, the toad, the old donkey, and the yellow cattle were also present. It was as if they were piloting a supersonic bomber. They reached 6 times the speed of sound and rushed toward the area where the extraterrestrial had fallen. They arrived before long and were caught by the blurry images captured by the satellites. At this time, the extraterrestrial tiger was still roaring. It stood in place, its whole body glowing and surging with energy. It was extremely terrifying because it was healing its wounded body. Its body gradually shrank until it was only 10 meters long. That was because it was afraid that it would be easily ambushed if it was too big. At this moment, everyone was astonished to see the giant bird flying through the air at 6 times the speed of sound. It was simply too fast as it crossed many great mountains and approached its destination. "You want to kill me?" Chu Feng stood on the golden condor's back with a cold smile on his face. He held the shiny diamond chakram in his hand and attacked with all his might. Boom! In just a split second, the snow-white bracelet became dazzling after being injected with energy. It was even more resplendent than the sun. The golden condor was originally incomparably fast as it rushed over at 6 times the speed of sound. Now, after Chu Feng swung the diamond chakram, the snow-white bracelet's speed became even more astonishing. At this moment, no one could clearly calculate how terrifying Chu Feng's all-out throw would be in addition to his original diving speed. The shrunken tiger discovered the golden condor in the air and also saw Chu Feng raise his hand. However, it had no time to evade or resist. That was because the bracelet speed was beyond common sense. It was like a bolt of silver lightning carrying a resplendent beam of light as it directly smashed down. Fresh blood blossomed on the tiger's body as terrifying energy exploded. The tremendous impact tore apart everything. After the silver diamond chakram erupted, it was extremely powerful and unstoppable. Alho, the vicious tiger, let out a mournful roar. That was because the energy contained within the diamond chakram was too terrifying. Although it was small in size, it was still destructive once it erupted. Moreover, Chu Feng's bracelet had struck its vital point, its injured waist. The diamond chakram had almost twisted its body into 2. At the very least, it had broken its spine. The extraterrestrial tiger let out a blood-curdling screech. The lower half of its body directly went limp and was almost smashed apart. It had suffered a terrifying injury and couldn't move freely. Everyone was dumbfounded. What situation was this? Chu Feng had taken the initiative to attack and was directly going to slaughter the extraterrestrial tiger. Earlier, some people were still smiling, thinking that once this extraterrestrial recovered its strength and healed, it would chase after Chu Feng all over the world. Who would have thought that Chu Feng would be so daring as to directly attack and kill the extraterrestrial expert himself? Chapter 377. People around the world were flabbergasted. Chu Feng was going to hunt extraterrestrials? Everything had been reversed. People thought he was going to hide in the mountains and escape to the desolate, uninhabited region. In the end, he rushed to the scene immediately to slaughter the extraterrestrial tiger. Everyone, be it the east or the west, was dumbfounded. Roar! The stripes on the vicious tiger's body shot out strand after strand of intense light. It opened its mouth and spat out a black stream of air, which swept toward Chu Feng's group. "Get out of the way!" Yellow Ox shouted. Boom! The golden eagle spread its wings and flew up with the group on its back. It was as though it was teleporting. It was simply too fast and caused the air to explode, sending up a mushroom cloud of air currents. In the forest, a mountain peak was brushed by the tiger's black stream of air. Without a sound, half of the mountain was cut off. This scene shocked everyone. Yellow Cattle's little face was taut as he said, "The vicious tiger's bloodline specializes in killing. Their baleful aura is the strongest. This is the tiger's baleful aura it spat out. Ordinary people will die after being corroded. Even many powerful evolvers can't withstand it." But he emphasized that even the vicious tiger's bloodline couldn't produce much baleful aura. This extraterrestrial tiger was so angry that it wanted nothing more than to swallow everyone in one gulp and kill them all. That was why it used its original baleful aura as soon as it arrived. "Sick cat, hand over your life," the black yak shouted. He raised the Buddhist staff high above his head, and black light erupted from his body as he poured energy into the weapon. Passively taking a beating wasn't their style. Behind the black yak, a giant golden figure appeared in the sky. It was incomparably divine. It was an old Buddha with a golden body and a dignified appearance. In a split second, Buddhist light shone resplendently in every direction and illuminated the void. The Buddhist race's energy circulated like a mountain torrent or an erupting volcano. The entire sky immediately boiled, and the sound of scriptures could be faintly heard. Everyone in the world was paying attention. At this moment, they revealed astonished expressions and were shaken by the Buddhist staff and the golden old Buddha. The black yak howled and then, with a rumble, waved the Buddhist staff and smashed it into the mountain forest. In the blink of an eye, Buddhist light surged like lava and engulfed the mountain forest. The golden old Buddha in the sky moved and actually slapped down with the Buddhist staff. Boom! The special energy of the Buddha race was truly terrifying to the extreme. It was able to restrain the beasts. The Buddha light palm covered the sky and smashed down, causing the ferocious extraterrestrial tiger to feel a chill down its spine. Roar! It roared angrily, spitting out the baleful tiger once again. At the same time, it waved its pair of enormous claws, striking towards the sky to defend itself. Of course, even though its body wasn't nimble and the lower half of its body was almost paralyzed, it still moved and did its best to evade. In this area, the baleful tiger and Buddhist light burst forth together. Bang, bang, bang. The forest collapsed, and the trees exploded one by one. Even the top of the mountain was broken off. The destructive power was extremely shocking. The vicious tiger howled. It was at a disadvantage in this strike. Tiger Shah was stopped by that Buddha hand, and he himself was also suppressed. Bloody foam flowed out of his mouth, and his body spasmed. Some of the murderous aura it spat out soared into the sky, almost brushing against the huge body of the golden condor, shaking the sky. "Moo, I can't take it anymore. This king needs to rest for a while." The black yak's limbs were weak after waving the Buddhist staff. He was so tired that he almost collapsed. That was because this weapon was too odd. It could crazily absorb a person's energy, and it was precisely because of this that its power was so great. "Chu Feng, stupid cow, and that wild eagle, I'm going to kill all of you. Not a single one of you can escape." On the ground, the vicious tiger let out a long howl. It was practically swallowing the heaven and earth. Now, the energy around its body was boiling, forming a light screen that enveloped its body. Especially its waist, it was incomparably brilliant. It wanted to recover its injured body and not affect its battle. At this moment, the stripes on its fur were all shining like molten metal. They were blazing and glaring, accompanied by possible energy fluctuations. The vicious tiger's innate talents were terrifying. This was an imprint carved on its body by its ancestors. It hid its inheritance and was a pattern that contained the principles of heaven and earth. "Give it to me," Yellow Cow spoke. He received the Buddhist staff and was about to launch an attack. At the same time, Chu Feng actually jumped down from the golden condor's back. Then, he circulated his powerful spirit, and with a swoosh, he moved the diamond chakram from the distant earth and took it into his hand. The vicious tiger's eyes were cold. It immediately stared at him and revealed boundless killing intent. With a whoosh sound, it pounced forward to launch a fatal attack. "Kill!" In the sky, Yellow Cow raised the Buddhist staff with both hands and smashed downwards. The old golden Buddha appeared once again. He was several hundred meters tall and began to chant sutras. One of his hands pressed downwards, and surging Buddhist light surged, illuminating the mountain ridge. "Ayo!" The vicious tiger roared angrily. It evaded and resisted, but its condensed aura was immediately weakened. Meanwhile, Chu Feng was fearless. He once again brought out the diamond chakram. Its speed was too fast, and its might was world-shaking. The snow-white light was like immortal lightning descending from the nine heavens. Lightning curled around it, accompanied by intimidating energy. The air exploded. The scene there was somewhat strange. It was as if space itself had exploded. The extraterrestrial tiger roared angrily. It was very powerful, but it discovered that it was at a disadvantage against this weapon. It couldn't move freely and couldn't evade. It could only face it head-on. At first, the diamond chakram was aimed at its head. It wanted to blast it with 10,000 peach blossoms and shatter its frontal bone. The tiger, on the other hand, brandished its large claws and did its best to resist. With a puff, blood splashed out and was accompanied by an earth-shattering tiger roar. The entire mountain forest was thrown into disarray. Hundreds of thousands of leaves were blasted apart by the tiger's roar. The vicious tiger was both shocked and furious. Its right front claw had been fractured and was drenched in blood. At the same time, the tiger claw hidden within its paw had broken off and was in unbearable pain. This single attack had almost crippled its right claw. The battle had just begun, and it was simply unbelievable. It had come full of confidence, but in the end, it was injured by a group of natives as soon as it arrived. At the same time, another Buddhist palm came crashing down from the sky and sent it flying. It was bleeding from all 7 orifices, and its fur was drenched in sweat. It was simply too miserable. This was the second attack from Yellow Cow. Apparently, his strength had increased explosively since he had severed his 6th shackle. The mysterious, medicinal mortar within his body had been completely activated. That was because Yellow Cow could absorb an endless supply of external energy through the medicinal mortar left behind by the sage. Withdraw, Chu Feng shouted. The diamond chakram had evolved after being refined in the revered 8 trigrams furnace on Mount Jijin in Jiangning. It now had an indescribable connection with him. Add to that his own transformation and increase in spiritual power, he could retrieve the diamond chakram in an instant. Croak, let me have a go. The toad shouted excitedly. It snatched the Buddhist staff from Yellow Cow's hands and at the same time circulated the damaged, thunderous breathing technique it had just learned. At this stage, Chu Feng didn't dare teach it the complete version. He was afraid that something big would happen and that the Buddhist race would settle accounts with him in the future. Boom! The Buddhist staff lit up, and the Buddhist race's special energy surged forth. The toad shouted, "Go, my bald head!" The old golden Buddha appeared once again amidst its loud cry. Another palm descended upon the tiger on the ground. Roar! Today the extraterrestrial tiger was in a miserable state. It was quite unlucky to have met these people. It was actually being beaten up so passively and couldn't even dodge. The main reason was that it had suffered a serious injury at the waist when it descended. Afterward, Chu Feng saw through it with his fiery eyes and used the diamond chakram to mend the injury. The attack broke its spine and made it difficult for it to move. Thump! The extraterrestrial tiger was sent flying. This time, its shoulder blade was fractured and its fur was covered in blood. Fight! Chu Feng shouted. He stood on the ground, and the diamond chakram flew out once again, smashing its other front paw into a bloody mess. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. People from all over the world were flabbergasted. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. So this was an extraterrestrial expert. Wasn't it too miserable? It was being suppressed. What happened to the promise of looking down on the east and washing the famed mountains in blood? It had threatened to kill everyone from Chu Feng's family. It had been regarded as a peerless expert even before it landed on the ground. In the end, what had become of the extraterrestrial tiger? This was especially true for those who had taken refuge with the outer realm beings. They couldn't accept this and found it hard to believe. Through the live broadcast, they saw the bloody tiger rolling on the ground. All of them were flabbergasted and felt incomparably distressed. This was completely different from what they had imagined. The peerless extraterrestrial tiger was being oppressed and almost beaten to death. The battle in the forest was intense. In the end, the scene that those who had taken refuge with the extraterrestrials were hoping to see didn't appear. The battle was indeed one-sided, but it wasn't the vicious tiger suppressing the Earthlings. Instead, it was Chu Feng, Yellow Cattle, and the toad who had gone berserk and were chasing after the extraterrestrials. Yellow Cattle was also exhausted and no longer used the Buddha staff. This thing consumed too much energy. Meanwhile, Chu Feng was also gasping for breath. That was because he had to pour his own energy into the diamond chakram every time. If it wasn't for the small grinding stone in his body, he wouldn't have been able to throw it like this. The extraterrestrial tiger was in a miserable state. Its whole body was covered in blood, and it was roaring repeatedly. It had no idea how many of its bones had been broken, and its combat prowess had declined sharply. The speed at which it was falling was frightening. Even it was scared out of its wits and terrified. According to the monitoring, the extraterrestrials' energy fluctuations have dropped sharply. They've been falling all the way from 9 severed shackles to about the same level as those with 6 or 7 severed shackles. With the organization monitoring them closely, the numbers on the energy instruments wouldn't lie. Main family, don't panic. I'm here to save you. The Manchurian tiger finally appeared after the extraterrestrial tiger was beaten to a pulp. He pounced forward with fiery eyes and howled continuously. Those who didn't know would have thought he was being affectionate. Main family, do you have any inheritances to teach me so that I can display even greater strength when fighting them? The Manchurian tiger howled. Scram! The vicious tiger wasn't fooled and glared at him with a fierce glare. You force me to put righteousness before family and refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Come, come, come. Let Grandpa Tiger show you what a king's demeanor is. You disgraceful wretch, you've been beaten up from the beginning until now. I'm ashamed to be associated with you. Watch out, as the Tiger King, you must be like this. The Manchurian tiger was quite smug. He then asked the black yak, the yellow cattle, and the toad to help suppress the extraterrestrial tiger and hold its limbs. Only then did he pounce forward with an awe-inspiring demeanor, saying, See, this is the demeanor of a king. I've beaten you until you lose your temper. Brother Tiger, can you not be so shameless? We're helping you hold it down. The black yak couldn't stand it anymore. The Manchurian tiger was wreaking havoc on the extraterrestrial tiger's body with loud bangs. In the end, he said with a dark expression, Where's your weapon? Where's your spatial storage treasure? Why aren't there any? He was too disappointed because he couldn't find anything. That was because the secret treasures had all shattered at the last moment of their descent. Roar! The extraterrestrial tiger was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He flipped them over and went all out. Bang, bang, bang. They were all sent flying. You still want to overturn the heavens? The proud dragon repents. The toad shouted loudly. He slapped out with his palms, causing astral winds to wreak havoc. Thump! The extraterrestrial tiger was beaten until he coughed up blood. He was now incomparably weak and gravely injured. Toad, not bad. Your strength is impressive. Let's take this opportunity to give you a name. The black yak gradually found him pleasing to the eye. He felt that this toad's strength was astonishing. Amen. I'll clear my name in front of everyone. I'll beat whoever calls me a toad to death. From now on, I'll be called Ouyang Foam. Western poison, Ouyang Foam. Isn't he just a toad? The old donkey curled his lips. I can't beat you to death. It's the wind of peerless elegance, understand? The toad Ouyang Foam immediately gave him a dragon repentance. Many people around the world were speechless and dumbfounded as they watched the live broadcast. This was too unconventional. No one could believe that the extraterrestrial beings would have such an ending after their descent. These people were still in the mood to fight amongst themselves. Many people felt that it was unreal after thinking about the extraterrestrial tiger's fate. Enough, kill it. Don't leave any future troubles. Chu Feng spoke and personally took action. As he opened his mouth, a snow-white metallic sword chi rushed out from his lungs. With a gulp, the extraterrestrial tiger's head fell to the ground, and its corpse lay in the wilderness. Chu Feng, Is he going to defy the heavens? He's killed another extraterrestrial. People everywhere were indescribably shaken. Good stuff. Quickly clean it up. Skin it and extract its flesh to refine the tiger race's true blood. The black yak shouted, "Leave the tiger penis for me. It's a great tonic." The toad Ouyang Fong shouted, "I'll beat you to death." The Manchurian tiger flew into a rage after hearing this. "Damn, I'm not asking for yours. I'm asking for the extraterrestrials. Moreover, this is Chu Feng who asked me to clean it up for him." "Ouyang Feng, are you looking for a beating?" Black lines appeared on Chu Feng's forehead. "Is there still justice in this world? Can't you let people speak the truth?" The toad felt wronged. "Keep the tiger bones and use them to make wine. They're also good stuff." The black yak shouted. He then added, "Everyone has a share of the tiger penis. No one is allowed to monopolize it. This is a legendary sacred item. I'll beat you all to death." The Manchurian tiger roared. "Brother Tiger, calm down. I guarantee you'll have a share too." Ayo! This place was in utter chaos, completely thrown into disorder. The people in the outside world were dumbfounded. This was originally a serious matter. To many people on Earth, this was a great calamity. It was likely to be accompanied by a rain of blood and foul winds, or even rivers of blood. But now, through the live broadcast, what did they see? It was simply an eyesore. Meanwhile, many female evolvers, such as Jiang Luotian and the Dragoness, were sighing softly. This was simply polluting their eyes and ears. They couldn't stand it. Chapter 378. Within the forest, several people were quarreling and almost came to blows. Cows roared, tigers roared, and toads croaked. It was as lively as one could imagine. This made all the people around the world speechless. They felt that there was no one else like this. Was this a peerless expert capable of killing extraterrestrials? Where was his elegance? Where was his bearing? Where was it all? These people actually started fighting over a single disagreement. It was as though they weren't fighting over the tiger's penis, but the tiger's kidneys. Naturally, they immediately stopped fighting after digging out such a large piece of kidneys. That was because the size of the kidneys was ridiculously large. They could eat them for a long time, even if they barbecued them every day. The extraterrestrial tiger's true body was completely revealed after a period of death. It had grown from 10 meters to 1,000 meters long. Just how big was the kidneys of such a big creature? The group felt dizzy from watching this. "I think we can auction it," someone suggested. They knew there were all kinds of surveillance equipment in the nearby forest. Hence, they began to advertise on the spot. "Once in 1,000 years, only seen once in 10,000 years. This is a peerless divine nourishment, the kidneys of an extraterrestrial tiger. This thing is 1,000,000 times more valuable than a lamb's kidneys. Yes, it might even be billions of times more valuable. One bite, and you won't have to worry about kidney deficiency for the rest of your life." They were simply too unscrupulous. They were advertising in front of the whole world. Not only the kidneys, but also the bones, skin, blood, and even the penis. They were prepared to sell them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to consume all the shocking parts of a 1,000-meter-long tiger, even if they were to vomit every day. Thump! In the end, they took action secretly after the advertisement. They destroyed all the surveillance equipment in the mountain because they didn't want to be spied on anymore. Afterward, they began to skin, extract the bones, and drain the blood to clean up the place. For instance, the tiger kidneys and meat were stored in Chu Feng's pristine jade bottle. There was a total of 50,000 kilograms of them. Then, they stopped moving them. Next, they exerted their strength and began to refine the tiger's blood. This was yellow cattle's suggestion. This type of extraterrestrial tiger had an extraordinary bloodline and contained strands of the ancestral tiger's true blood. It was just like how they treated the Dark Rock King. They could completely refine the essence and didn't need to move it all away. They extracted a small jar of special tiger blood from the 1,000-meter-long tiger's body. It shone like a scorching sun, silver and dazzling. It contained an extraordinary and mysterious aura. This thing could be mixed with mutant fruits to refine medicine. It will be of great use if we keep it. At this stage, it can be called a treasure. Yellow Cattle was very happy. The Manchurian tiger was drooling even more. It felt that this thing would be of great use to it. Perhaps it could unearth some secrets from the ancestral tiger's true blood and even allow it to directly transform. Chu Feng promised it that apart from using it to concoct medicine, he would leave half of the blood for it. Soon after, the tiger bones were also refined by them, their essence extracted, leaving behind large amounts of dark and lightless waste bones. All the good stuff was taken away. In the end, they left this mountainous region. At this point, the curtains completely fell on this battle, leaving behind a complete mess. The broken tiger corpse shocked the outside world. In the following days, the whole world was in heated discussion. People everywhere were talking about the arrival of extraterrestrial creatures and the fact that they were blown up by Chu Feng and the others. This swindler isn't crippled after all. He's ridiculously powerful and ridiculously ferocious. The faces of the upper echelons of the corporations were all green. This battle had confirmed that Chu Feng was a swindler, who said he was crippled. Without relying on domains, he was still a bottomless pit. Didn't they see? Even the extraterrestrials had been chopped up by him. Fortunately, 2 extraterrestrials came to block the calamity for us. Otherwise, this swindler would have cheated us. The people from the corporations were deeply moved and secretly rejoiced. This kind of matter caused an uproar everywhere. Some people were sullen, some were shocked, and some were delighted. Demon King Chu is still as heaven-defying as ever. He's never gone far. Some people said happily. These people were once incomparably regretful and felt sympathy for Chu Feng. Now, they were relieved of a heavy burden. The #1 expert of the continent isn't just for show. He didn't rely on domains, but his own invincibility. The battle at Mount Song's Great Woods Temple is indisputable. That Peng's death wasn't unjust. People everywhere were discussing this matter. Even those from the North Pole and the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave were no exception. Their expressions were ugly because they had actually misjudged Chu Feng. Even Princess Lin's expression was somewhat stiff. The domain researcher she thought she could control was actually a crocodile lying in wait beside them. Too sinister. I really believed he was trash before. Who would have thought he was a swindler? He mixed in with us and explored the famed mountains with us. He's definitely holding back his trump card to use us. Fortunately, he was exposed in advance. Someone rejoiced. No wonder. Even that toad mount of his beat up some of us in the Qinling Mountains. We weren't his match. After hearing these words, Zhao Chong, who had fought 800 rounds with the toad, was almost as black as the bottom of a pot. He glared furiously at the person who had exposed his shortcomings. How could he endure such a face-slapping? The marine race reacted differently after finding out. The Southern Sea Dragons were furious because they had formed an irreconcilable enmity with Chu Feng. That was because 2 of their princes had been killed. The dragoness of the Eastern Sea lineage was incomparably happy. She felt that working with Chu Feng would be very reliable. Perhaps they might really be able to enter the true dragon's lair in the CEI. The others also reacted differently and couldn't come to their senses for a long time. For instance, Jiang Luoshen, Linoi, and the Hollow Jade Temple Master. Boss Chu, you're too much. You're clearly not crippled, yet you hid it from us. Du Huijin, Yi Qingru, and the others complained. Hu Sheng and Xiong Kuan were also dumbfounded. They heaved a sigh of relief and rejoiced that not only did they not kick Chu Feng when he was down, but they had also stuck by him. The guides and the extraterrestrials were somewhat afraid. If Chu Feng were to find out, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Discussions broke out everywhere. Chu Feng disappeared for a day to see his parents. This time, he had them go into complete seclusion and wouldn't come out for a while. He left behind the tiger meat and mutant fruits for the elder ape to take care of. The elder ape also wanted to lay low for a while. The Dark Rock King had died on Mount Song, but this matter wasn't over yet. After all, there were extraterrestrials from the same place who hadn't come down. The Outer Realms received the news immediately. The golden-haired man with the snow-white, divine wings in outer space let out a low roar and shattered an orbiting satellite. He was furious. It wasn't easy for them to appear in outer space, and it was even more difficult for them to descend to the Earth's surface. The Dark Rock King and Vicious Tiger had both succeeded. This was enough to make countless descenders sigh in admiration and envy. That was because 99% of them would fail and die. They had succeeded, but the outcome left everyone speechless. They were beaten to death by the natives of Earth. They were killed in a sullen and humiliating manner. This was difficult for them to accept, but they couldn't help but be dumbstruck. Just as the people on Earth and in outer space were experiencing violent fluctuations of emotions and couldn't calm down, there were strange movements in the depths of the universe. A great battle was taking place, and it was no longer peaceful. Energy was pervading the air and seemed to be rushing toward Earth. But these things were still far away. At the very least, people couldn't sense them right now. In the end, Chu Feng appeared. He was willing to stay in the open and attract those extraterrestrials to come down. He wanted to completely eliminate any future troubles. However, those people were very cautious and didn't act rashly. In Shuntian, Chu Feng had returned. His companions were Yellow Cattle, Ouyang Feng, the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, the Old Donkey, and the Golden Eagle. We can fight through the entire Eastern Territory in an hour. Should we give his group a name? The Black Yak inquired. He felt that since there were birds and beasts, why not call them the Animal Legion? In the end, everyone wanted to beat him up. The Black Yak didn't give up and said, I think it's a good idea. When the day comes when we campaign through the starry seas and step into the depths of the cosmos, the Animal Legion is destined to become famous across myriad realms. I think it's better to call it the Demonic God Legion. Chu Feng is a demon, and we might evolve into divine beasts in the future, said the Manchurian Tiger. He then specially announced that the toad wasn't included in this list. No matter how he evolved, he couldn't be considered a divine beast. The toad was incomparably angry and clamored. He was the only one who could be considered a true divine beast. The group of them were all of inferior bloodlines. In the end, this incurred the wrath of the masses. A group of people surrounded and beat him until the toad's eyes rolled back, and he was beaten up miserably. After returning to Shuntian, Chu Feng's first stop was the Hollow Jade Temple. He immediately caused a huge commotion and was finally informed that the Hollow Jade Temple Master wasn't here. In truth, the Hollow Jade Temple Master had run away because he felt uneasy. He was afraid that Chu Feng had appeared in Shuntian to destroy him. After this news spread, the outside world was in an uproar. Many people were discussing this. A considerable number of people were mocking the Hollow Jade Temple Master. If he had known this would happen, why did he act in the first place? Chu Feng, I'm very happy that you've recovered and become so powerful. I'm no longer anxious and can finally heave a sigh of relief. The old man Lu Tong was extremely happy. After meeting again, he felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Otherwise, he would always feel that he owed Chu Feng and would soon suffer from depression. Old man, don't stay in the Hollow Jade Temple anymore. Come with me and be the chief steward of our army. Chu Feng invited Lu Tong to poach from the Hollow Jade Temple. What army? What's the goal? Lu Tong was astonished. The Beast Army, the Demonic God Army, the Sage Army. This was the response of the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and the others. Their answers were quite different. The toad grinned and said, We're about to conquer the sea of stars and roam the cosmos. We'll set foot on the 10 most powerful ancient stars and capture divine sons, fairies, and saintesses along the way. Speak human language. Lu Tong said, This grandpa is a divine beast. Of course, I can't speak human language. I'm speaking of legends. The group, during this period of time, Chu Feng had been wandering around the mountains and rivers. He had been living away from the city for a long time. As such, after returning, he brought the group to Shuntian to enjoy the bustling world of mortals. At a certain famous private restaurant, the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, the Old Donkey, and the others were so drunk that they couldn't even speak properly. The Old Donkey shouted, Boss, is this really 100-year-old cellar pulp? It's so delicious, but this king is thirsty now. Give me a bottle of 100-year-old mineral water. The owner of the private restaurant wasn't vague at all. He immediately brought over a bottle of murky water and told him not to be polite. This was a 500-year-old bottle, and he could drink as much as he wanted. Chu Feng hurriedly left with them. These fellows were about to reveal their true colors. If they didn't leave now, they would probably be in big trouble. After returning to the city, they had been enjoying delicacies and fine wine. They also visited some famous clubs and restaurants. That night, Chu Feng brought them to the 27th floor of the Yunguang building. He had prepared his own ingredients because he had heard that the chefs here were superb. They had fresh tiger meat, rock meat, and flood serpent meat. They were prepared to eat heartily. This restaurant on the 27th floor of the Yunguang building was very famous. Usually, all kinds of famous people would come here to enjoy good food and excellent service. As soon as they arrived, Chu Feng saw a beautiful figure from behind. She was dressed fashionably and looked somewhat familiar, but he couldn't recall who it was. Chu Feng immediately walked over to see her face. He felt that he must have seen her before and wanted to know who she was. Look at this figure from behind. I'll give it 120 points. It's beyond the scope of perfection. The black yak was speechless. Even Manchurian Tiger and the old donkey were staring blankly. They secretly nodded and gave the old yak a thumbs up. There was no mistake in the evaluation. That figure from behind was indeed excessively beautiful. Suddenly, before they could approach, the fashionable lady had already turned around and glanced at them. Immediately, they were all shaken. In truth, the people nearby were also speechless. Some of them were in a daze and had completely lost their composure. That was because this woman was too beautiful. According to the black yak, if perfection was 100 points, then this woman could be given 120 points. She was so beautiful that it was somewhat unreal. This fashionable lady's clothes were trendy and brought out the astonishing curves of her peerlessly beautiful body. She was excessively beautiful. She wore light makeup, beautiful red lips, long eyelashes, large misty eyes, and a face that was sparkling white. At first glance, it was difficult to describe her specific appearance. One could only feel that she was so beautiful that it was almost illusory. The people nearby were all attracted by this kind of beauty and were all in a daze. Even the black yak and the toad were no exception. Even the small child, Yellow Cattle, was lost in thought. Only Chu Feng looked as if he had seen a ghost. At first, he was also shaken by this kind of beauty. But soon, he was horrified because he had recognized who this person was. Wasn't this the one from Mount Longhu? How could the peerless classical beauty, who couldn't be erased, even after being suppressed for so long, become a fashionable lady? Chapter 379. Subverted. An incomparably intense feeling of subversion. This was a completely different identity from the one in Chu Feng's impression. If he hadn't recognized her, he wouldn't have believed it at all. A peerless great demon, an immortal evolver who had been suppressed for countless years in the Taoist capital, and a classical beauty who had just broken free from the seal after being isolated from the world. Meeting again was completely different. Her hair was as shiny as satin. When she walked, her hair trembled slightly, emitting a very bright light. She had a perfect figure and was very tall. Even without her crystal-high heels, her snow-white jade feet were at least 175 centimeters tall when they touched the ground. The slanted skirt revealed her snow-white right shoulder, as well as the area above her chest area. It was white and sparkling, and then it accentuated the soul-stirring, towering, and moving curves. The waistline of the skirt was very slim and well-fitted, accentuating her astonishingly slender waist. At the bottom of the skirt, it only reached her thighs, matching with the shoulder on the top. One side of the skirt was missing a section, and the choice of symmetry and asymmetry was just right, revealing a pair of straight and snow-white long legs. It was clear that the exposed legs attracted many people's attention. They were as exquisite as ivory and carried a bit of luster. They were perfectly straight and seemed to be full of elasticity. The legendary Nine Heads physique paled in comparison to her. A pair of beautiful jade-like feet were as exquisite as mutton-fat jade. Her toenails were painted a sparkling red. If it was someone else, perhaps they would appear too gorgeous, but when used on her body, there was no such feeling. The contrast between the lustrous white and the bright red gave off a kind of otherworldly beauty. Under her feet was a pair of crystal-high heels, which perfectly displayed her small but flawless feet. They were sparkling and absolutely gorgeous. It was obvious that the people here who had a slight fetish for feet were dazed, their eyes staring blankly. In reality, regardless of whether it was those petite and beautiful feet, the pair of snow-white legs, or that small waist, just the lower half of her body was full of killing power. Some people present didn't even know where to look. Her face was beautiful to the extreme, without a single flaw to be found. She had long eyelashes, a pair of quick-witted yet deep eyes, a straight and elegant nose, and bright red lips that were very sexy. They had a moist luster and were a little dazzling. She was completely different from the great demon in Chu Feng's impression, the mysterious and powerful woman. Now, apart from having an air of immortality and elegance, she also had a strong personality and fashion sense. For a time, Chu Feng seriously suspected that he had denied the wrong person. Could an ancient evolutionary have suddenly turned into a city girl? The impact on his perception was too strong. On the 27th floor of the Yunguang building, this restaurant was very famous. Whether it was the food or the service, they were all top-notch. Many celebrities came and went. These people all lost control of themselves, many of them in a daze, their eyes staring straight at that woman. They were all shaken and infatuated by this type of beauty. In the past, whether it was Chu Feng, the Black Yak, or the others, they would all scoff when they heard about people being captivated by beauty, thinking that it was just a saying of perverts. But now, the Black Yak couldn't shift his gaze away. The Manchurian tiger in human form was also staring straight ahead. Even the Donkey King in human form was staring straight ahead. They were powerful, evolved beings with extraordinary willpower, but even so, it was needless to say the others. The scene was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. This woman's sudden arrival caused great waves in everyone's hearts. Everyone, regardless of gender or age, would admire beautiful things together. Even the yellow cattle's little mouth was agape, and even the toad was flabbergasted. The woman from Mount Longhu was very quiet and indifferent. She appeared calm under everyone's gazes. Even though thousands of years had passed and she had returned to the mortal world, she was still quite used to it. Doubtlessly, she was peerless in ancient times and would be the center of attention wherever she went. Moments later, some people came to in succession. Some cried out in surprise, while others hurriedly took pictures. They wanted to take a picture of this almost dreamlike beauty and enjoy it. There were even some who wanted to get to know her. Even though some people recognized Chu Feng, they didn't have any misgivings after seeing him here. They wanted to abandon him and greet this woman first. Now the tiger kidney can be used. The nourishment wasn't for nothing, the toad said. This was quite destructive to the mood. The Black Yak punched the toad's head without holding back. The old donkey also poked him to remind him not to speak such big truths. Meanwhile, the Manchurian tiger pushed the toad to the back and prevented it from peeking out. He himself tidied up his clothes and walked forward. He muttered to himself, "What extraterrestrial white tiger? How vulgar. Today, I feel like I've returned to my youth. It's love at first sight." After transforming into human form, his appearance wasn't bad. His stature was rather tall. He paced forward and organized his words before saying, "This beautiful fairy, it's my honor to meet you. It was at this time that the tall and sturdy Black Yak pushed him to the side. He took off his black suit and sunglasses, looking like a gangster boss. He shoved the suit and sunglasses into the Manchurian tiger's hands as if he were a lackey carrying a bag. He was tearing down the other party's stage. "How do you do, esteemed lady? I'm Guan Gahan." He was fairly direct as he introduced himself. This was the name the Black Yak had given himself after Yahanga Pass. According to him, the intent was profound and indescribable. After the greeting, he sighed in a low voice, trying to find a reason to encourage himself. I thought of my old memories in the Chingching Tibetan Plateau. My heart trembled when it rained in the spring hundreds of years ago. When I saw that otherworldly and gentle face, I thought of my immature and sweet youth. Today, this feeling has reappeared. The Manchurian tiger was pushed to the side. He was so angry that his nose was crooked. He felt goosebumps rising all over his body as he listened to Guan Gahan's soft muttering. "What do you mean?" The toad interrupted at an untimely time. Hundreds of years ago, this old yak's first love was a green cow on the Qingha Tibetan Plateau, the old donkey informed. "Damn, how can you praise a cow like this? My hair is standing on end. Isn't it blasphemous to compare Sister Goddess?" said the toad. Moreover, he stuck out his big belly and ran in front of the black yak. "Bean Sprout, you're just a tiny fart. What you doing? You're even smaller than yellow cattle. Go play in the mud." The black yak and a Manchurian tiger worked together to drag him to the back. Naturally, they were communicating telepathically because it wasn't good to slander him directly. Afterwards, the two fellows were quite mushy and bashful as they complimented him with all their might. The two of them were more shameless than the other. They even used words like love at first sight to euphemistically express it. Chu Feng rubbed his forehead and couldn't bear to watch. He really wanted to call the two of them grandpas. Could they not court death like this? In truth, the others weren't any better. Many so-called famous people and powerful evolved beings had come forward, and there was no lack of young masters from the corporations. Originally, these people were quite afraid of Chu Feng. For instance, the direct descendants of the corporations were worried that Chu Feng would cause trouble for them. But now, these people didn't care. Even Qi Sheng, the eldest grandson of Qi Honglin from the Pre-Qin Research Institute, who had almost been beaten to death by Chu Feng, was flattering the girl with a smile and ignoring Chu Feng. The 70th floor of the Yunguang building could be said to be the moon, surrounded by stars. Everyone had gathered over. Only a few people revealed suspicious expressions because after the photo was taken, they looked at it carefully and found that there was nothing left. Naturally, there were also people who had taken a photo. It was a hazy silhouette that couldn't be clearly displayed, as though it had been isolated by a mysterious power. They suspected that there was something wrong with their recording equipment. Chu Feng pulled on the black yak and the Manchurian tiger, wanting to retreat with them. "Don't pull me, brother. Let me tell you, this old yak's spring has arrived. My heart hasn't been moved for hundreds of years, but now I feel like I'm full of youth. I've returned to the year when I was 18, the black yak turned back and said. Then, he became even more suspicious and said, "What do you mean by pulling me? Don't tell me you're also. I'm warning you, we're friends and brothers, but this kind of thing can't be given away. It's up to our own abilities." The Manchurian tiger was also very direct. He said to Chu Feng in a righteous manner, "I feel that my second spring has arrived. Brother, don't stop me, and it's best if you don't compete with me." Chu Feng really wanted to give each of them a slap. He secretly transmitted telepathically, "Big brother, two uncles, you can't afford to provoke that sister. Leave with me if you don't want to die. Don't say anything more." However, it was of no use. The two were both suspicious and disdainful. "Brother, we know you're a swindler. You want to send us away?" "No way." As the two saw it, Chu Feng had a criminal record. He had often tried to scam the corporations, and this put them on alert. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, that tranquil and peerless beauty parted the crowd with graceful steps and walked directly toward Chu Feng. She didn't say anything and only raised her beautiful, lustrous chin, indicating for Chu Feng to follow her. Then, she walked toward a luxurious box in front. Chu Feng felt a headache coming on. No one knew better than him just how powerful this sister was. Even the peerless treasure of the Taoist capital, the azure calabash, couldn't seal her and was blasted apart by her. One shouldn't be fooled by her elegant and fashionable demeanor. Only heaven knew just how terrifying the energy contained within her snow-white, agile, and beautiful body was. Chu Feng reckoned that once this person displayed her might, She could easily flatten a large city in the blink of an eye. And this was just the most conservative estimate. Seeing that he wasn't moving, the lady turned back and glanced at Chu Feng with her tranquil, beautiful eyes. At this time, her long eyelashes trembled and her beautiful eyes blinked. Many people, regardless of gender or age, were instantly stunned by this kind of charm. Only Chu Feng's body tensed up as though he were facing a great enemy. Even his hair stood on end. He still remembered that day when this person had broken the divine golden chains and destroyed the Taoist capital's demon refinement ground with a single blink of her eyes. Thousands of kilometers of land had collapsed and large fissures were spreading rapidly. The group was filled with jealousy and hatred toward Chu Feng. After all, that lady was hinting for him to go with her. Her long eyelashes trembled as she blinked at him, treating him differently from the others. Boss must have fallen. Look, he can't even walk. Du Huaijin, Ouyang Qing, and the others arrived just in time to witness this scene. Yes, could be love at first sight. Is he so excited that he can't even walk? The old donkey nodded. The toad Ouyang Feng was even more direct. Chu Feng, you're too useless. Go on, follow me. Did you eat the tiger kidney for nothing? The black yak and the Manchurian tiger's faces darkened after hearing this. They wanted to beat the toad up. As for the main character, Chu Feng himself, he wanted nothing more than to slap the toad to death. To hell with love at first sight. When Chu Feng first saw her, he was indeed shaken by her beauty. But now, he was frightened out of his wits. Should he run or follow her? He knew clearly that this lady had tempted everyone to attack the Azure Calabash and help her break the domain runes outside. But back then, Chu Feng had picked the stone fruit outside and ran away. He didn't help at all. Could it be that this person wanted to settle accounts with him? In the end, Chu Feng followed her and entered the private room. He looked quite honest and didn't match his usual style, and this caused a group of people outside to reveal murderous gazes. Chu Feng has fallen. Did you guys see that? Normally, his mouth is so cheap, but now he doesn't even know how to speak. He's completely like a little virgin. He's a classic case of falling in love. He's young and pure, commented the old donkey. Chapter 380. Chu Feng followed the woman into the private room. Standing at a close distance, he suddenly discovered that the woman was wearing crystal-high heels and was even taller than him. Her skin was exquisite and lustrous. Her slanted dress exposed her shoulders, arms, and long, snow-white legs, which were as translucent as white jade. There was a sweet fragrance on her body. It didn't smell like perfume, but a natural body fragrance. It was very light, but very pleasant. She was examining Chu Feng, and Chu Feng was also observing her. Her silk-like hair hung down to her waist. Her eyes were clear, and her exquisite and beautiful face was tranquil. She was calm and composed from beginning to end. Chu Feng was anxious. Back then, he had directly run away after plucking the trapped fruit. He had never tried to rescue her. What was going on today? It wasn't to the extent of settling scores. If she really wanted to deal with him, he wouldn't be able to stop her with a wave of her hand. He was pondering how to get close to her and how to address this great demon. Enchantress? She would probably slap him to death if he called her that. Senior? Such a beautiful woman would most likely care about her age. He couldn't afford to be unlucky. Sister? That was too mushy. She would probably slap him to death. Sister Demon Goddess, what business do you have with me? Chu Feng was quite obedient. This was the first time in his life. That was because he knew that this ancient evolved being was too terrifying. Only the heavens knew where she came from after being suppressed in the ancestral court. Most importantly, even the forbidden grounds of the ancestral court had failed to suppress her. As time passed, she had broken free and was still as beautiful as ever. Demon. Finally, the girl spoke. This was the first time she had spoken. Her voice was magnetic and pleasant to the ears. Her eyes revealed a peculiar glint. Chu Feng's expression froze. Had he said something wrong? Was this not a great demon? She had killed her way out of the most dangerous place in the ancestral court, the demon refinement grounds. Sister Goddess, Chu Feng immediately corrected himself. He had never been so well-behaved before. Considering his talkative and sometimes vulgar character, this was truly a rare sight. It was clear that this excessively beautiful woman, who could be called a peerless beauty, was quite satisfied with this title. This time, she didn't question it. Outside, a group of people had gathered in front of the door and were eavesdropping. Too mushy. That's what Demon King Chu is saying. He's actually calling her sister goddess. Someone laughed softly. Demon King Chu has fallen and is acting like a virgin. But that's understandable. No one can resist this woman's charm. Didn't you see that old monk over there fall in love with her? Not far away, Grandmaster Qian Ye's face immediately darkened. This old monk only came to have a meal and coincidentally encountered this matter. Didn't I just take a few more glances? Some people recognized him. Master Qian Ye was an eminent monk from Bodhi Biogenetics. Together with Master Qian Jia, they were known as the disciples of Buddha. They had once fought with the White Snake at Taiying Mountain. For a long time, people thought that he had died in battle, but nothing unexpected happened to him. In the private room, Chu Feng's face had also darkened. Hearing the discussions of the people outside, he immediately released his energy and sealed off the area, not letting them hear the conversation. That lady was fairly calm and collected. She had heard the discussions outside and immediately released his energy to seal off the area, preventing them from listening in. I want to know where you found that divine beast following you. The lady took the initiative to speak to Chu Feng. She was actually asking about such matters. Chu Feng was shocked. This lady was too powerful. She knew that the toad was a divine beast with just a glance. Among the fellows around him, only the toad hadn't transformed and was still in its original form. Anyone who saw it would despise it, because no one had ever thought it was related to a divine beast or a sage beast. That was because its current appearance was too deceiving. That toad was picked up on Mount Tai, Chu Feng informed. Of course, he had to beautify himself. He said he had picked it up and didn't say he had beaten it up along the way. So it's like that. No wonder it looks so familiar. I think I lost it at home. The lady nodded and spoke in a rather natural and ordinary manner. Chu Feng was dumbfounded. What was she trying to do? He soon came to his senses. This lady wanted to steal the divine beast and abduct the toad, but wasn't the reason she gave too outrageous? She said her family had lost it, but he really didn't know what to say. This reason was too lousy. The lady's swan-like snow-white neck was very elegant. She tilted her head to look at Chu Feng and said, "You don't believe me?" Chu Feng felt dizzy. Was she threatening him? He really didn't want to compromise completely, so he didn't reply. "Yes, it looks very much like the divine beast raised by my family. Its bloodline is very pure, so it can't be fake," the lady continued. Chu Feng was speechless. Just how conceited was it just because its bloodline was pure? Just how powerful was her family? "Elder sister, I really picked it up on Mount Tai. I don't think it's raised by anyone." "It's wild," said Chu Feng, because he really didn't want to be extorted by someone who used such an unreliable reason to seize the toad. In any case, this was still a divine beast and a sage beast. Once this kind of creature reached adulthood, it could easily destroy a planet. Its strength was so terrifying that even the supreme sex of the outer realm would be envious. Therefore, if possible, Chu Feng really wasn't willing to hand over Ouyang Feng. The lady said calmly, "That's right. A long time ago, some of my family liked to live on Mount Tai. I reckon it was lost at that time." Was she determined to seize it by force? Chu Feng was unhappy because he really couldn't believe what the lady had said. Even a divine beast can be lost. How great is her heart? He murmured in a low voice to vent his dissatisfaction. That was because this matter was too bizarre and difficult to imagine. The lady nodded and said, "Yes, I raised more than one at that time. I reckon it encountered some sudden accidents that led to the accident." The more Chu Feng listened, the more unreliable he became. In the present age, it was difficult to find a divine beast even after searching through many starry seas. It was said that they could only be found on the 10 most powerful ancient stars. They were extinct in other places. This lady actually said that her family raised several of them. Was there any justice in this world? She really dared to say anything. Chu Feng was very dissatisfied and said, "Sister, your family raised more than one divine beast. What are they used for?" "To pull carts, refine medicine, and eat meat," the lady replied casually. What the hell? Chu Feng was dumbfounded. She really dared to say such things. This lady's tone was boundlessly arrogant. A grand divine beast and a sage beast had been reduced to a cart-pulling beast. What was most unbearable was that they were even a kind of meat dish. Is divine beast meat delicious? Chu Feng asked for some reason. He didn't know why he would ask this. The other party was obviously unreliable, so he shouldn't have asked this. The lady replied, "My family only eats vicious divine beasts. The ones we raised at that time were all auspicious beasts. I've never eaten them before." Did this mean that his family had eaten divine beasts a long time ago? The lady was very calm and said, "I know you have doubts in your heart and don't believe what I say, but you can call that divine beast in. Its body should have an imprint left by my family." When did that happen? Chu Feng was suspicious. A long, long time ago, when the earth hadn't dried up yet, the lady said. Chu Feng suddenly felt a headache. He was a little suspicious. Could it be that he had guessed wrong from the beginning? Shouldn't he have denied it earlier? If he chose to believe it, it would simply make one's hair stand on end. A family from a long time ago raised several divine beasts and sage beasts. This was so terrifying. Just what era was this lady from? She wasn't a demon, but a human evolver. Sister, could it be that you've traveled through the prehistoric times of the universe? You've condensed the heaven and earth, lived for a long time, and are an old senior? As expected, the term senior didn't attract the attention of beautiful women. The lady spoke very calmly and said, "I'm still young." The divine beast you picked up has lived for a long time, but isn't it still young? Chu Feng's expression was shaken after hearing these words. He was shaken. Did this lady's words have a certain degree of credibility? Chu Feng didn't say anything further. He pushed open the private room door and called the toad Ouyang Feng in. Then, he used his energy to seal off the area once again so that outsiders wouldn't hear the conversation in the room. The lady was devastatingly beautiful. She didn't say anything and merely raised her white wrist. She pointed with her slender finger, and a beam of light flew into the toad's body. This immediately terrified the toad, and it shouted, "Chu Feng, did you sell me out in exchange for some benefits? This grandpa isn't convinced. I won't rest until you're dead." At this time, a beam of light suddenly flew out from its body. That was its spiritual energy, and there was a certain imprint wrapped within it. It looked like a clan emblem. "Do you see it? It was left behind by someone from my family," said the lady. The toad had a stupefied expression. What was going on? Chu Feng was apprehensive. He thought for a moment and told the toad to judge for himself. At the same time, he made it think hard about whether it had heard of any clan when it was still in the egg and whether it had a master. "Are you saying that this fairy sister wants to recognize me as a relative?" The toad opened its eyes wide after hearing this. The lady corrected it very calmly and said, "Wrong, not a relative. You might be a divine beast lost by my family, and you were still in the egg at that time." After hearing this, the toad immediately rebelled and cried out, "Ah, that's great. Sister, I'll rely on you. I'll definitely recognize you." From its point of view, this lady was much more powerful than Chu Feng. Only heaven knew what level she had evolved to. It would be absolutely safe to follow her, and there would be many benefits as well. The most important thing was that this lady was so beautiful that even its eyes were glued to her. She was so pleasing to the eye that there would surely be many beautiful scenes to follow at her side. Do you still have any integrity? You're directly rebelling. Chu Feng was truly indignant. I had nothing to do with you in the first place. You were the one who kidnapped me by force and always beat me up. I had no choice but to become a thief. Now, it's finally time to set things right and forsake the darkness for the light. I'm too happy. Naturally, I have to draw a clear line between us." The toad announced in a dignified manner. Chu Feng was incomparably angry. In the end, he glared at the toad and said, "Let me remind you this sister's family raises divine beasts. They're usually used to pull carts, refine medicines, and eat meat. Nonsense. The toad glared at him with a face full of disbelief. Yes, he's right. The lady nodded calmly and didn't deny it all. It was as if she disdained to do so. After hearing this, the toad staggered back in fright and almost fell down. Afterwards, it hugged Chu Feng's thigh and said, "Big brother, I'll go with you. We're so close that we can't be any closer. You mustn't abandon me. I'll follow you for the rest of my life, and won't leave you even if you beat me to death." Its lowly appearance made Chu Feng gnash his teeth in hatred. He couldn't help but want to kick it. The lady sighed and said, "After so many years, you might be the only divine beast left in my family. At first, I wanted to take you in and treat you well. But everyone has their own ambitions. Since you're unwilling and have chosen him, I'll give you your freedom." The toad was flabbergasted after hearing these words. It cursed inwardly and wanted to shout, "I don't want to choose him." But it had just rebelled once again. What would this lady think of it if it shamelessly changed allegiance again? Perhaps she would really slap it to death and eat it. Sister Goddess, actually, It couldn't say anything. "Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. You can follow him from now on," the lady said calmly. The toad, it really wanted to cry. It really didn't mean that. Why couldn't the other party understand and not ask it to stay? Chapter 381. Xu Feng had just calmed down a little when he heard this. His face immediately turned green. He wanted to say, "Sister, you can't be so black-hearted. How did everything become yours?" He had picked up a divine beast on Mount Tai, but it was said that her family had lost it. Now, even the diamond chakram he had asked the refinement sacred tree to forge for him was about to change owners. "You don't believe me?" The lady tilted her head to look at him. Her eyes were beautiful and deep, and her lips were bright and moist. It was as if she knew what he was thinking. Xu Feng was apprehensive. Was she threatening him? He felt that he could not be subdued, unless this woman said that he was also hers, and the prefix was unique. Otherwise, the diamond chakram would not be hers. Of course, this kind of unhealthy thought was only a fleeting thought. He did not dare to say anything out of fear of being slapped to death. "I dug this out at Mount Kunlun." Xu Feng mumbled unwillingly. No matter what, he had to make it clear that this was his item and could not change owners. That's right. There used to be many evolvers living there, and I also have a temporary imperial residence there. The lady nodded. This was the case. Xu Feng could no longer remain calm. The diamond chakram was his powerful weapon, and he could not give it up no matter what. However, the lady's words caused him to be unable to calm down. She had directly said that the raw material was a black stone the size of a human head. This was very much in line with the truth. At the time, some people told me that this was an ultimate material, while others said it was a piece of trash. I had no use for it at the moment, so I placed it in a flower pot and used it as a viewing stone. The lady's words stunned Xu Feng. How could she be so calm in the face of a stone that could possibly contain a supreme treasure? She had directly tossed it to the side and used it as a decorative ornament. Just how much insight did she have? "You don't want to cut it open to see what's inside?" Xu Feng could not help but ask. The lady replied very naturally, "I don't need it. I don't lack weapons. Keeping it without cutting it can also preserve its value. Whether it's for yourself or as a gift, it's a good choice. If I cut it open and it collapses, that would be a loss." When Xu Feng heard this, he almost burst into tears. What kind of family was this? It could be said that his arrogance soared to the heavens. Even in the face of an ultimate material, his reaction was indifferent. He only had a little bit of expectation, treating it as an item to preserve his value. For a moment, Xu Feng really wanted to know what kind of clan it was, how strong it was, and what kind of foundation it had. He wanted to understand that era and all kinds of secrets before the earth dried up. It would be best if he could start from this family. Therefore, he tried to find something to talk about, hoping to unravel a missing piece of history that was buried in the fog. "Sister, you put such a rare stone material in the pot. I presume that the bonsai is not ordinary, right? The woman nodded and said, there's a 9 revolutions divine medicine planted in the flower pot. When it blooms, it is extremely dazzling. The entire sky is covered in a rain of light, and the fragrance of the flowers can fill a large city. Chu Feng was stupefied, his eyes dazzled, directly becoming absent-minded. That scene really was unimaginable. The key was that this woman said that the flower was beautiful and fragrant. This completely overlooked the main point. That was a stalk of divine medicine, yet she didn't care about it at all. All she cared about was the splendor and beauty of the divine medicine when it bloomed, as well as its refreshing fragrance. When the divine medicine was in full bloom, all the creatures in a large city could smell its fragrance. How astonishing was this? It could definitely achieve a terrifying super evolution. The toad was also listening on the side with its saliva flowing out. It had no moral integrity and said while wiping away its saliva, "Sister Immortal, our family was so powerful in the past. I really want to rebuild it." It was too embarrassed to directly say that it wanted to return to the family, but the meaning was more or less the same. It wanted to rebel again. In the end, Chu Feng kicked it to one side. Is that 9 revolutions divine medicine still there? Is its medicinal properties very powerful? Chu Feng asked. He really yearned for it. Oh, something shocking happened back then. I don't know where it is now, but it should be in a certain sea of stars. I'll go look for it if I have the chance. When it blooms, it is truly breathtakingly beautiful and unforgettable. Here it was again. Chu Feng felt that the angle of viewing a problem was also completely different because they were at different levels. He was concerned about the effects of this divine medicine that had shaken both ancient and modern times. But this elder sister was only reminiscing about its beauty. This made him speechless and sad, as well as jealous and envious. As if recalling Chu Feng's question about the medicine's effects, the lady tilted her head and revealed a thoughtful expression on her fair and supple face. She said, "Its medicinal effects aren't bad. After the flowers wither, the fruits it bears are as big as longan fruits. They are perfectly round and golden. They are called the 9 Revolutions Golden Pill." Chu Feng was dumbfounded. 9 Revolutions Golden Pill? Weren't these legendary divine evolution elixirs brewed and refined by pharmaceutics grandmasters? How come they had changed here? Did they grow from a plant? Elder sister, the 9 Revolutions Golden Pill is the name of the medicine, he reminded. The 9 Revolutions Golden Pill, refined artificially, isn't effective enough. It's just a substitute for the naturally grown 9 Revolutions divine medicine. It's flawed, the lady said calmly. Chu Feng was so envious that he wanted to cry. Just a casual question had made him jealous. He couldn't imagine just what kind of clan this was. They had casually used a 9 Revolutions divine medicine as a bonsai and placed it on the windowsill. They had also casually tossed the ultimate materials into the pot as ornamental stones. Why did he feel that such a heaven-defying clan should be struck by lightning? Elder sister, where do you spend your days? Chu Feng was full of curiosity and wanted to understand her daily life. The toad was wiping away its saliva. It also wanted to know just how heaven-defying the daily life of the clan that had raised its father's generation and the other divine beasts was. It's very ordinary. Some like to fight beasts, some like to gamble on stones, some like to chase after beauties, and some like to immerse themselves in cultivating heavenly arts. No matter what, it's all for the sake of survival. The difference is that some are passive while others are active. The lady spoke calmly without any fluctuations or the slightest trace of anger. At this moment, she was like a fairy of the moon, cold and aloof, as if she was talking about something that had nothing to do with her. "What level are the beasts?" the toad asked in a low voice. "Divine beasts, saint beasts," the lady replied calmly. Not to mention the toad, even Chu Feng staggered. This was so awesome that it was about to explode. The toad didn't have much confidence. Could it be that as a divine beast with the most powerful bloodline in the universe, it was only playing a very ordinary role in this clan? Very soon, it recalled a legend. There had been races with weak or even inferior bloodlines who had displayed a saintly aura when they were weak. Could this race have risen to power like this? What about gambling on stones? What level? Chu Feng asked. The material of your diamond chakram was originally a piece of origin stone. What do you think? After hearing such words, Chu Feng was completely subdued. He was truly stunned and dumbfounded. He was too envious. If what the lady said was true, what would the descendants of such a clan do in their daily lives? He couldn't help but want to enter their shoes. When they were free, they would ride divine beast chariots and roam the sea of stars, calling friends, teasing goddesses, and flirting with imperial princesses. When they were bored, they would fight divine beasts or chop up a saint beast and roast it with a jug of 10,000-year-old immortal wine to satisfy their cravings. When they were even more bored, they would find a peerless heaven illuminator to take him as their master and learn from him. For a moment, Chu Feng's mind wandered. He was almost the same as the toad and quickly wiped away his saliva. What kind of life was that? This made his eyes red with jealousy and hatred. Sister Goddess, do you think your clan is still accepting disciples? Chu Feng said with a radiant smile. But to the toad, this was flattery. This was the ambition of a pretty boy. It glanced askance at Chu Feng. Bang! In the end, it was kicked away. The lady's devastatingly beautiful face revealed a spurious smile. Are you sure? My clan has long since dispersed and become the dust of history. Many starry seas will hunt you down if you're related to my clan. You'll become the common enemy of many galaxies and a wanted criminal. Chu Feng was astonished. What kind of clan was this? How could they still be like this after so many years? Their influence in the past was simply explosive. The toad was also scared silly. Why did it feel that this elder sister was a bit scary? Was she trying to scare them on purpose? Chu Feng felt that he couldn't sit on the fence at such a time. He immediately said, Sister Goddess, we're not afraid. The toad really wanted to say, I'm afraid, bastard, don't pull me. However, it couldn't move because it was being held down by Chu Feng. The lady shook her head. Forget it. It's for your own good. Keep your distance. I won't accept you. She immediately refused. Then, she glanced at the diamond chakram on Chu Feng's wrist. Her long eyelashes trembled and her beautiful eyes revealed an indescribable luster. Chu Feng really wanted to say, Why haven't you forgotten? You still want to go back? He quickly interrupted and said, Elder sister, why do I feel that everything on earth belongs to you? He was a bit suspicious. Was this woman truly calm and natural, or was she a black-bellied swindler? He was somewhat rejoicing that he hadn't brought the stone box and the 3 seeds with him. Otherwise, they might also belong to this woman. That was because he had recently revealed his strength to fight against the extraterrestrials. He also had to be on guard against the Descenders from 22 years ago. He had temporarily hidden away all the secret items he couldn't use for fear that they would aid the enemy in case of defeat. He had always felt that the 3 seeds were of great importance. I'll give the diamond chakram to you. The lady looked at him and nodded. Seeing that you're a pure-blooded human with no other mixed bloodlines, you might also be mine. Uffed. Chu Feng wanted to vomit blood. Was this the final pit she had dug for him? She didn't want his divine beast or diamond chakram. And in the end, she wanted him as a person. Didn't this mean that everything on his body belonged to her? The lady said, Back then, there were many powerful races on Earth. The pure-blooded humans lived in my family's territory, so most of them belonged to me. Elder sister, do I become your person or your property? Chu Feng cast a sidelong glance at her, because he couldn't accept this so-called history. You're quite courageous. The lady shot him a glance, and then stared at him attentively. Now that I think about it, you're quite similar to my fiancée. This time, Chu Feng couldn't remain calm. He stuck out his chest and assumed a heroic appearance. The toad shamelessly said, Elder Sister Fairy, you don't know, but Chu Feng was actually dug out from the ground. He had once slept in the ice and snow. He's an antique and has already lost his memories. Could it be that you too Chapter 382. How could he say such shameless words? Chu Feng felt that he would be struck by lightning. The peerlessly beautiful woman remained calm after hearing these words and said, "Yes, there was a period of time when I was considering whether or not to castrate my fiancée." What? Not to mention Chu Feng, even the toad tightened his legs and retreated. What was going on? Why was it completely different from what he had imagined? The toad felt a headache coming on. Was he trying to get close to her for nothing? He had really expressed his feelings wrongly. Sister Fairy, since that's the case, come at me if you want to vent your anger, said the toad as it cast a sidelong glance at Chu Feng. Bang! Chu Feng stomped on this deceitful toad. He really couldn't let it speak so carelessly. It had shamelessly tried to get close to him for no reason, but in the end, it had provoked trouble. Chu Feng was also quite embarrassed. He really didn't understand. Was this sister's fiancé so hateful? Sister, a person's appearance can't be controlled. That's what parents and the heavens give us. There will always be some people who look similar, but their characters are definitely different. Chu Feng emphasized that he really didn't want to be remembered for no reason. It would truly be unlucky if he was hated for no reason. The woman said, "Strictly speaking, you and him only have similar smiles. When my family arranged for us to meet for the first time, I felt that his smile was too evil, so I felt disgusted. His smile is a bit cheap," the toad added from beneath Chu Feng's feet. Yes, the woman nodded. She couldn't say such words herself, but she agreed with the toad's description. Chu Feng hurriedly stomped on the toad. This deceitful creature was always assisting him in the opposite direction. He really wanted to stomp it to death. In fact, I only felt disgusted at first. Later on, I felt that he wasn't bad, added the woman. Chu Feng released the toad and revealed a smile as he faced this devastatingly beautiful woman. I naturally love to smile. So cheap. The toad cursed silently. It felt that his smile was really cheap. Then it began to have a crooked idea. Sister Fairy, since Chu Feng is a bit similar to your old friend, why don't you keep him by your side and let him listen to your orders? It could be considered a memory of him. F***ck me. Chu Feng really wanted to curse. How could he speak like that? This was too unpleasant to listen to. Was he an object? How could he leave behind a memento? His words were too immoral. This damned toad was unreliable at crucial moments. The woman tilted her head and glanced at the toad. She then looked at Chu Feng and said calmly, "Somewhat similar. He's not as handsome as my fiancé, nor is he as intelligent. His evolutionary aptitude is also inferior." Chu Feng really wanted to roll his eyes. This sister really didn't care about other people's feelings when she spoke. Was there anyone who attacked people face to face like this? He couldn't accept it. He felt very good about himself. He felt that if he were in the same era as that person, he would definitely kick him to the ground and ensure that nothing would happen to that person. At the same time, he felt that this devastatingly beautiful woman always had a twist in her words. At first, she said that Chu Feng was similar to her fiancé. In the end, Chu Feng and the toad tried to curry favor with her, only to hear the terrifying words castration. Afterward, he and the toad had just declined when he heard this woman say that she didn't like her fiancé at first but seemed to admire him later on. The toad shamelessly tried to curry favor with her and said, "The dead are gone. Sister Fairy, please restrain your grief. Perhaps Chu Feng was sent to your side by the heavens." It was rare that the toad didn't undermine her this time and praised Chu Feng. The woman was flabbergasted. "My fiancé is still alive. It should be very difficult for him to die." The toad was about to faint. It felt that it had expressed its feelings wrongly again. "He is still alive after the upheaval," the woman said indifferently. "His master's abilities are profound and exceedingly powerful. He personally took him away. After so many years, he must have evolved to an extreme level. Perhaps he can become a heaven illuminator in the future." The toad opened its eyes wide and was dumbfounded. Chu Feng also drew in a breath of cold air. That person was truly powerful. His current level was too terrifying. This was a terrifying entity that could move unhindered through the starry seas. "Sister Fairy, you're always changing the subject. I don't even know what kind of attitude you have toward that person." The toad hung its head dejectedly. Its flattery had failed several times. "That person can be considered a heaven's pride of a generation," the woman evaluated. This evaluation was very high and definitely couldn't be compared to ordinary geniuses. For her to say such words and give such an evaluation, that person must be very heaven-defying and extraordinary. Perhaps he was a heaven-warping entity that could look down on a period of time and suppress an era. Chu Feng said, "That person is definitely not sincere. Sister, when we first met, you were suppressed under the ancestral court of Taoism while that fiancé of yours was shining brightly in the cosmos. Didn't you say that he didn't come looking for you after the incident? Are you trying to draw a clear line? It's a bit complicated. I don't want to talk about the past." The woman's expression was tranquil. "The past is like a flowing river. There's nothing to recall. Sister Fairy will help you restore your former glory in the future." The toad began to boast again. Additionally, it secretly transmitted its voice to Chu Feng. "Don't say that you didn't have my help. Your smile is just as despicable as that person's. If you smile more, you might be able to climb up the ladder." Crackle. Clang. Clang. Chu Feng didn't say anything else. He quickly beat the toad up and warned it not to speak carelessly. This sister was too powerful. This so-called telepathic transmission might not even be reliable and could be intercepted. "Yes, you're right. I can hear you clearly even if you use telepathic transmissions." The woman nodded. Dizzy, the toad wanted to bang its head against the ground. Chu Feng was also wiping his sweat. This person was truly uncanny and couldn't hide anything. He even suspected that this sister had cultivated the mind-reading ability. Otherwise, why did it seem like she could read their minds? This unrealistically beautiful woman glanced sideways at Chu Feng and said, "I'll give you a chance." The toad was even more excited than Chu Feng after hearing this. It was rather expectant. Could it be that this woman really viewed Chu Feng in a different light? The woman looked at Chu Feng and said, "I don't want the diamond chakram or the divine beast. I'll give them to you. Amen, you're mine from now on." "Brother-in-law," the toad shouted at Chu Feng. This fellow was very excited. He felt that he would have a powerful backer in the future and was destined to evolve rapidly. The woman shot him a glance. This was the first time she made a move. She flicked her finger through the air, and a beam of light fell on the toad's body. It immediately crooked its mouth and eyes and couldn't recover. This seemed to be a warning. She then looked at Chu Feng and said, "Your lineage should be considered people from my former territory. If you're willing, you can still be considered my people." I'll think about it first." Chu Feng was extremely unwilling. Even his body was hers. How could the things on his body run away? He felt that this outrageously beautiful woman was a bit of a scam. It was best if he didn't jump around randomly. "Oh my God, what's wrong with me?" The toad wailed. Its mouth and eyes were crooked and couldn't recover no matter how hard it tried. "It's just a small punishment. It'll disappear automatically after a year," said the woman. The toad's face turned green after hearing this. This state had to last for a year? How could it face people now? Chu Feng brought up the past events on Earth. He wanted to ask what had happened during that period of time. The woman shook her head and told him that his level wasn't high enough. He mustn't be involved in those old matters. Otherwise, he would still face a fatal disaster, even if he was separated by ancient times. She didn't say anything more, and Chu Feng didn't ask again. Soon after, the woman got up and was about to leave when the toad invited her enthusiastically. He said he would treat her to some peerless delicacies and flattered her with all his might. He wanted to recover his mouth and eyes. Chu Feng also urged her to stay. In the end, the woman nodded. Following which, the yellow cattle, the black yak, the Manchurian tiger, and the Donkey King were let in. Additionally, Du Huijin, Ouyang Qing, and the others were also allowed in. Chu Feng took out the ingredients from the pristine jade bottle and handed them over to the restaurant staff for them to handle. He said that he was going to invite the most distinguished guest and that he had to let the chef display his talents to the fullest. After Chu Feng rushed into the private room, he found that the black yak and the Manchurian tiger were chatting excitedly. They were incomparably attentive to the woman and were just short of confessing their love at first sight. Meanwhile, the toad Ouyang Fong was quite mischievous. He restrained himself and didn't utter a single word as he watched them show off. Chu Feng immediately felt a headache coming on. He hurriedly called out to the black yak and the Manchurian tiger, telling them to stop trying to curry favor with the woman. "Brother, we've agreed to compete fairly." This old brother's heart has finally been moved after hundreds of years since his love was severed from the Tibetan plateau. "You can't be so tyrannical." "That's right, Brother Chu Feng. I feel that my second spring has arrived. I'm once again youthful and full of vitality. Don't mess things up." These two fellows felt very good about themselves and wanted to compete with Chu Feng. "Brothers, this is the one from Mount Longhu, the capital of Taoism." Chu Feng was not only direct, but also very detailed as he informed them of the hidden information. Both the black yak and the Manchurian tiger had been there before. Moreover, they had seen the woman suppressed in the azure calabash from afar. Now that they knew the truth, their faces immediately turned green. The black yak jumped up and mooed continuously. The Manchurian tiger almost turned around and ran. This was simply frightening. They were all dizzy, and their faces alternated between green and white. In the end, they turned completely green. They wanted to slap themselves as they thought of their own performance. How embarrassing. At this moment, the crooked toad explained the woman's astonishing origins and family. After hearing about her fighting divine beasts, roaming the cosmos, and using the 9 revolutions divine medicine as a potted landscape, the black yak and the Manchurian tiger felt their scalps go numb. Their legs trembled, and they wanted nothing more than to flee immediately. That scared the yak to death. That scared the tiger to death. The rock meat, tiger kidney, and southern sea flood dragon meat were all prepared by the restaurant. After being served as delicacies, the toad and the black yak served the lady attentively. They almost transformed into waiters as they waited on the lady to enjoy her food. The lady's movements were elegant and graceful. She ate slowly and occasionally took a sip of red wine. It was obvious that she was a city beauty. It was difficult to associate her with that terrifying identity. The chef's skills are exquisite and can be considered at the master level. "It's just that the ingredients are too inferior," the lady commented. Chu Feng and the others were speechless. These were already the best ingredients on earth. In their eyes, the so-called chef's skills weren't that important. The ingredients were more important. However, they were at a different level and looked at things from a completely different perspective. The lady shook her head and said, "Pure-blooded rock meat is delicious and fragrant. The rock meat in front of us is clearly too coarse and far from that. Yes, I used to eat flood dragon meat. That was a true delicacy. Now, this can only be considered snake meat." This lady's evaluation left everyone speechless. "Let's go. I'm going back to Mount Longhu to rest." In the end, she stood up with a smile and bid them farewell. "Let's go," Chu Feng said. "Where are we going?" The others revealed puzzled expressions. Chu Feng said, "Today, I heard that the members of that family roam the Sea of Stars. They go to battle beasts, gamble on stones, and hunt for beauties. My heart was moved. Let's go and experience what it's like to rule the world." Chapter 383. Chapter 383. A bunch of madmen. She's gone. She disappeared so quickly. The black yak, the Manchurian tiger, and the others were tipsy. They chased after the shockingly beautiful lady and wanted to send her off with their eyes. In the end, they found that she had vanished without a trace. It was too fast. It was as if she had teleported. They had clearly seen her graceful and alluring back just now. But in the end, she had vanished from the face of the earth. Chu Feng possessed the fiery eyes, but he felt a sharp pain as soon as he used them. In a daze, he saw a bolt of lightning flash past before everything returned to normal. This sister's divine instincts were too terrifying. She had sensed it in advance and used a secret technique to suppress his eyes' special abilities. This made it impossible for him to stare at her just now. How regretful. Chu Feng muttered to himself. Aren't you afraid of getting a pinprick? The toad curled its lips. It already knew about the special abilities of Chu Feng's eyes and cursed him inwardly for being so daring. He actually wanted to see through that fairy sister's true body? Your thoughts are too filthy. Chu Feng's old face turned red. With that, he gave the toad a hard slap on the head. Ayo! The toad cried out in pain. It felt a sharp pain in its head and saw stars. It was immediately enraged. Was there still justice in this world? It was clearly your thieving eyes looking around. How can you accuse me of being filthy? This was a typical case of a thief crying thief. Chu Feng, this grandpa will fight it out with you. Apparently, this kind of resistance was useless. The toad had suffered a fat beating for no reason. This made it rather indignant. A dignified divine beast actually couldn't beat a human. One day, we'll enter the other starry seas and strike it rich. Chu Feng looked at the toad and laughed. What do you want to do? The toad retreated. When the time comes, we'll fight beasts. Chu Feng smiled. F*CK, your grandpa. The toad stomped its feet furiously. It immediately wanted to practice the toad fist with Chu Feng. The group left Shuntian. In the recent days, they were fairly down to earth and immersed themselves in the world of mortals. They went in and out of restaurants and clubs every day and drank all kinds of wine cellars. How could they rule the world? After leaving the city of Shuntian, the night breeze sobered them up a little. That woman's family roamed the sea of stars, fought divine beasts, gambled on ultimate origin stones, and interacted with the goddesses of imperial dynasties in the cosmos. How could they compare? The difference was too great. We'll do our best to solicit alms from the corporations. A group of people wanted to kidnap me, so we'll pay them a visit and borrow some things from their treasury, said Chu Feng. When he was in Wudong, there were several groups of people who attacked him at night, wanting to capture him. At that time, they all thought that he was crippled. At that time, the old Grandmaster said that there was a Grandmaster of fist techniques from the previous generation who came to visit. He was even older than the old Grandmaster and secretly attacked the mountain. Moreover, there was more than one person. That night, the old Grandmaster sensed the blood energy of an old friend. One of them came from the Baji sect and was close to 130 years old. He practiced fist techniques and was invincible in the past. There was another person who came from the 8 trigram school. His blood chi was like the sea, and his fist intent was able to deduce the power of divine arts. It was truly terrifying. Chu Feng had always coveted those ancient fist manuals. Now that he had an honorable reason, he wanted to go around and comprehend them. Of course, we'll also pay those corporations a visit and borrow some things from them, said Chu Feng. I like it. The corporations are the most loyal. This golden Arhut staff in our hands came from their treasury. The Black Yak nodded excitedly. The Manchurian Tiger also nodded in agreement. Yes, those bastards are too evil. After Kunlun fell into trouble, they added fuel to the fire. Now that Kunlun is jointly managed by all parties, it's time to collect some interest. A while ago, a group of great demons from Kunlun fell into trouble. Their realms fell, and they all went into hiding, withdrawing from Kunlun. This led to a change in ownership. It could be said that the corporations had exerted great efforts to jointly manage Kunlun with the Hollow Jade Temple and the Marine race. After the old Lama and the others came out, they were negotiating with people in Kunlun, hoping to get those people to leave. Oh, let's go to various places. I'm sure they'll be tactful and leave Kunlun quickly. The old donkey also agreed. Yellow cattle, what special materials do we need to refine medicine? Chu Feng inquired. This time, he wasn't prepared to stir up a bloody storm. Instead, he wanted to amicably obtain some valuable items from the various powers to upgrade himself. Presently, he had plucked a number of mutant fruits, enough to sever one's 6th shackle. He wanted to borrow the revered 8 trigrams furnace from Mount Jijin to refine them. Mixing all kinds of mutant fruits together with the rock blood, he might be able to refine an extraordinary medicinal liquid that would allow him to evolve once again. Divine beast blood is very important. It can turn something rotten into something miraculous, but this kind of thing is too precious. Ordinary people won't be willing to use it, Yellow Cattle explained slowly. He was somewhat worried at first. Even though he had refined some ancestral blood from the Dark Rock King's body and refined some silver blood from the extraterrestrial tiger's body, it wasn't much. That was because the true blood produced by these two extraterrestrials was sparse and impure. But now, I'm not worried anymore. We don't lack the most important divine beast blood. Yellow Cattle glanced at the toad. The toad couldn't sit still anymore. He glared at him with a guilty conscience and said, "Little brat, what are you looking at? Watch out, or this grandpa will beat you up." At present, his mouth and eyes were crooked and couldn't recover. His appearance was indeed a bit ugly. Compared to the beautiful and exquisite Yellow Cattle, he was the polar opposite. Yellow Cattle hooked his little finger at the toad and invited him to a battle. "Not bad. We don't lack divine beast blood." The group of people nodded and began to laugh mischievously. "Grandpa, I don't want to play with you guys anymore." The toad was scared. He then jumped up and was about to escape. Unfortunately, he was caught by Chu Feng and suppressed forcefully. I'm a divine beast from the #1 family on Earth. Who dares touch me? Sister Fairy, save me." The toad let out a heart-wrenching and lung-splitting cry. "What are you yelling for? If we really want to find all kinds of refining materials, we'll only need you to contribute a bit of blood. When the time comes, we'll split the medicinal liquid and divine pills with you. They'll definitely help you evolve." "Nonsense. I'm providing divine beast blood. How can giving me pills make up for the loss?" The toad was unconvinced. "Don't you see how much milk the pasture can produce every day? And what do those cows eat? It's just grass. It's the same for you. You're contributing divine beast blood, but you can actually make up for it by eating some random things." The toad was furious after hearing this. "Madman Chu, you're too immoral. Don't you know how to use metaphors? This grandpa will fight it out with you. Do you really think I'm a cow?" "Behave. You're too noisy," said the black yak. The toad turned back and glanced at him sideways. "Hey, aren't you a cow? Why don't I see any milk? You're really useless. With your size, you should be producing a lot of milk every day. How come I don't see a single drop?" One had to admit that his mouth was really asking for it. The black yak was in human form now, but after hearing this, his face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He wanted nothing more than to bite the toad to death. "Moo! Thump! 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 Damn cow! How dare you sneak attack me? Watch this grandpa's beating the bull across the mountain fist. I'll beat you up even if you're separated by a Manchurian tiger. This is a peerless heavenly art." Roar! The Manchurian tiger roared. "Little tadpole, are you courting death?" The toad's face was swollen as he flew and shouted, "God damn it! So the legends are true. You can't touch a tiger's butt. I'm just borrowing strength to beat a bull across the mountain. What are you so anxious about?" "Moo! Roar! Croak! Hee-haw, hee-haw! Grandson, who are you calling son? You dare use your black donkey's hooves to kick me? This grandpa will beat you to death." Croak. This place was immediately thrown into chaos as people fought wildly. Chu Feng felt a headache coming on. Yellow Cattle, on the other hand, was very quiet. He watched the liveliness from the side and reminded the others, "This toad is deliberately provoking us. He wants to take advantage of the chaos to escape. You guys beat him up. Calf, you bastard, you're too hateful. If you have the guts, come and fight me one-on-one. Oh my God, don't hit the face when you hit someone. I'll fight whoever dares to touch my handsome face. Damn it, do you want to die, Manchurian tiger? Oh my, you black cow that can't produce milk, are you tired of living?" Afterwards, Chu Feng no longer felt a headache. He sat together with Yellow Cattle and the Golden Eagle and watched them fight with great interest. He would let them toss him about. In the end, the toad was in a miserable state. It provoked them alone and wanted to take advantage of the chaos to escape. In the end, Yellow Cattle and the others joined in to beat it up. God damn it, what a pity. This grandpa's peerlessly handsome face has been beaten into this state by you guys. Oh my God, it hurts so much. The toad's mouth and eyes were crooked after being poked by that person from Mount Longhu. Now it was even worse. Its eyes were black and blue, its lips were like sausages, and its head was full of bumps. Its face was swollen like a pig's head. How refreshing! Although the black yak's face was also purple, he felt refreshed. "You cow that can't produce milk," the toad turned back and said. Immediately, the black yak's expression turned dark. He was extremely unhappy, and white smoke was coming out of his nostrils. "Damn toad, you're really asking for a beating." Along the way, Chu Feng quietly left the group and told them to wait for him in front. He rushed through the night to the foot of Mount Taihang. Chu Feng's hometown, Qingyang Town, was here. He met Zhao Sanyi in private and left some mutant fruits for him. The thunderous bow was given to him by the old man. He also went to the general goods store and met Uncle Lu in secret. He also left some mutant fruits for him. Back in town, these two old men were no different from his family. Chu Feng left as quickly as he came. This wasn't the first time he had returned, but he had always done it in secret. He didn't want to be discovered and bring trouble to the old man. In the following days, all the major corporations were in a state of panic. In their words, Madman Chu was a bandit who had come to rob them. He was like a swarm of locusts with his mutant beasts. This time, they were very gentle. They didn't attack the corporations and kill people like before. Instead, they politely borrowed the items in the treasury. But they were even more despicable. Unexpectedly, a few of these rare items had been fished up. This made Chu Feng feel as if he had obtained a priceless treasure. What made Chu Feng feel regretful was that he couldn't find the location of the Baji school or the 8 trigram school. He still wanted to exchange pointers with those two 130-year-old boxing masters. The locusts are here. Everyone, quickly move the treasury. That bastard Chu Feng has stolen the Heavenly Master's manual that our Archaic Alliance found. How hateful! The Archaic Alliance was furious and wanted to cough up blood. Chu Feng had attacked them last time, and now he was doing it again. How hateful! Our extraterrestrial civilization has a bundle of white jade bamboo slips. That's a mythological atlas. Why didn't you guys tell us earlier? We could have prepared for it in advance. Chu Feng's group was moving about frantically like a swarm of locusts. They wanted to refine medicine and improve themselves so that they could evolve rapidly. Yellow cattle, what else are we missing? We're missing the most crucial lightning-struck wood. It's best if it's a 1,000-year-old peach tree that survived after being struck by lightning. Of course, other mutant trees that have been struck by lightning are also fine. Yellow cattle informed them that this kind of lightning-struck wood didn't die even after being struck by lightning. It contained a strand of innate vitality and was extremely valuable for refining medicine. It would definitely be able to guarantee the success of the pill. However, they didn't find it even after ransacking a few clans. Not long after, the Dragon Lady sent someone to deliver a letter, informing Chu Feng that there was lightning-struck wood in the eastern seas. He could obtain as much as he wanted because a large portion of the true dragon's lair was constructed with lightning-struck wood. Chu Feng was instantly stunned when he heard this. The lair of a true dragon was constructed with lightning-struck wood. In outer space, everything was dark. At this moment, in a universe very far away from Earth, a metallic luster could be seen. The luster was ice-cold and deep. That was a battleship. Boom! It opened fire, and a planet in front of it was directly destroyed. The silence was broken as terrifying auras appeared in the starry space. One could see that behind the gigantic battleship, countless battleships could be seen. They were so densely packed that they almost enveloped the entire starry space. Not long after another spatial jump, they exited from the wormhole and neared the solar system. Their target was Earth. This was destined to cause a huge storm. For the fastest fault-free novel reading, please visit Chapter 384. Chu Feng's group visited along the way and obtained a bountiful harvest. But in the end, they didn't find the thunderstruck wood. Should they go to the Eastern Sea? He felt that it wasn't too safe to go to the sea at this stage. Some of the overlords in the sea were even stronger than those on land. They had more secrets, such as flying saucers and the fallen cube. Additionally, the current evolved beings, such as the Southern Sea Elder Dragon King, had already severed his sixth shackle. He was bound to be even stronger. The strength of an old flood serpent who had lived for over 1,000 years was unfathomable. Additionally, the Southern Sea Elder Dragon King and the other overlords had been searching for the dragonification fruit and the sea god fruit. Their strength would advance by leaps and bounds once they obtained them. Apart from them, the marine race would surely have other hidden experts. We indeed have to be careful. The sea is deep and boundless. There are bound to be many strange things and experts. The Black Yak and the others nodded cautiously. In truth, what Chu Feng was most worried about was whether or not there would be beings from the outer realms descending into the sea 22 years ago. There were boundless resources at the bottom of the sea, and those beings would most likely be even more terrifying. Since there were descenders on land, there would most likely be experts in the sea as well. In outer space, near a satellite orbiting the Earth, a golden-haired man with a pair of snow-white divine wings, a beautiful woman in a long purple dress, and three beings in black armor that looked like demonic gods stood together, not far from each other. At this moment, they were discussing how to descend to the Earth together. The guide had long since told them the details. The death of the extraterrestrial tiger had provoked the blonde man and the others. A native had killed and eaten the tiger without the slightest scruple. Descend and kill Chu Feng. This was their decision. Although they hadn't appeared on Earth yet, they already knew who Chu Feng was and some of his past matters. The Dark Rock King's words were quite true. He was the weakest among the extraterrestrials, and the ones behind him were all at higher evolutionary levels. The extraterrestrial tiger was the second weakest, followed by the purple-dressed beauty and the blonde man. Naturally, the three demonic godlike beings were also extremely powerful and unfathomable. Very quickly, some bad news reached the surface. A few extraterrestrials did not hide it and expressed their disgust for Chu Feng, claiming that whoever dared to start a war against Chu Feng would obtain their friendship. The extraterrestrial expert had spoken, calling for people to kill Chu Feng. This was very sudden and shocking. Oh, it seems Demon King Chu has infuriated those people to such an extent that their reaction is so intense. They actually summoned the people of Earth to kill him. Is this going to work? It was just to drive a wedge between some organizations and Chu Feng, so that people would not dare to be too close to Chu Feng. However, who would really dare to make a move against Madman Chu? In my opinion, none of them would dare. Some people communicated and expressed their opinions. It was clear that after the news spread, every place could not remain calm. There were a total of 5 life forms in outer space that made a statement threatening to kill Chu Feng. This was a major incident. Even though Chu Feng was powerful and brave enough to kill 2 extraterrestrials, people still didn't have a good opinion of him. Everyone knew that the extraterrestrials would appear continuously in the future. If they were to all become enemies, Chu Feng would undoubtedly die, even if he was 10 times more powerful than he was now. I think it's only these extraterrestrials who are at odds with Chu Feng. The other life forms that appear in the future won't necessarily clash with him. You're wrong. Even if they come from different star domains, they're still outsiders. They won't tolerate the natives in their eyes committing treason and killing their people. They'll definitely punish them as a warning to the others. At present, many people had different opinions. They felt that Chu Feng was very powerful and had heaven-bestowed talents. However, it was hard to say what his future held. The matter was fermenting. There were even TV programs that invited famous evolved beings to discuss this matter. This caused quite a stir. All in all, Chu Feng is very powerful and has great potential. However, he's going to face a large number of extraterrestrials. Who knows how many will descend? Some so-called famous evolved beings and experts felt that Chu Feng was standing at the heart of the struggle. This was very disadvantageous to him. Even if he managed to survive this time, there would be other extraterrestrials who would use him to establish their might. As for Demon King Chu, he could be considered a world-class celebrity. Very few people didn't know of him. This kind of talk program triggered a great discussion. Our infernal society is willing to follow in the extraterrestrials' footsteps and kill Chu Feng. On this day, an organization announced that they were going to suppress Chu Feng and stand together with the extraterrestrials. This caused an uproar. Was there really someone who wanted to take action against Chu Feng? This so-called infernal society was an organization in the Western Hemisphere. They were half dark and half terrifying and had always been mysterious. Their strength had increased greatly after the upheavals. This kind of declaration naturally caused a huge uproar. Many people condemned them. A dark organization that often carried out terrorist activities in the past has now defected to the aliens. How shameless can they be? Those who liked Chu Feng naturally loathed them and spoke fiercely. There were traitors in the past, and now there are traitors from Earth. These people should be drowned in a pig cage and shot 100 times over. These are dregs that oppose humanity as a whole. They should all be beaten to death. Too shameless. They're defecting to the extraterrestrials and attacking their own people. This infernal society should go to hell. Many people spoke up to rebuke and express their anger towards this dark organization. Of course, there were also people who supported them. The Infernal Society also held a press conference to explain their point of view. They said that they couldn't stand Chu Feng's lawlessness and overbearingness. For the sake of peace and order, a lunatic like Chu Feng who kills at the slightest provocation should be eradicated and annihilated. When people heard these words, some were astonished, some were furious, and some wanted to laugh. Is this member of the Infernal Society doing crosstalk? Damn you. Aren't you just another name for terror? In the past, you often caused chaos and killed many people. Now you have the nerve to denounce Chu Feng? Some people were quite angry. In truth, Chu Feng's group wanted to take action immediately after hearing the news. They wanted to uproot the Infernal Society and kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Unfortunately, this organization had undergone decades of baptism and was well organized. They had always been active in the darkness and hidden in the underground world. Outsiders couldn't find them. We are full of goodwill and have made this decision for the sake of humanity. We will suppress Chu Feng and welcome the extraterrestrials. Think about it. The arrival of extraterrestrials will bring with them the spark of an advanced civilization. For the sake of Earth and our world's nirvana, we need to accept them and not reject them. Yellow Cattle sighed. They're traitors, yet they can speak so righteously and gloriously. This terrifying organization has improved. Chu Feng couldn't laugh. His expression was gloomy because the Infernal Society had announced that they were about to take action and kill the people around Chu Feng. You're courting death, Chu Feng muttered. He had just enjoyed a few days of comfort, but now they weren't at peace. He was furious, and these people had crossed his bottom line. Following which, another organization called the Blood Demons announced that they would also take action and follow in the extraterrestrials' footsteps. They wanted to kill Chu Feng and bring in an advanced civilization for Earth. Everyone understood that these were the organizations that had led the way earlier. However, no one took action despite their fierce words. They were only expressing their stance. Very good. Civilization knows no borders and transcends races. Wait for us to descend and bring the spark of an advanced civilization to build a new home for Earth, an extraterrestrial replied from outer space. How disgusting. I'm getting goosebumps all over my body, the black yak cried out. He felt that these people's words were too disgusting. Let's fight. I want to see your actions. Who dares to attack Chu Feng and the people around him? The golden-haired man in outer space urged. According to reason, he felt it was beneath his dignity to kill Chu Feng after descending. However, he found it quite interesting to see some organizations pledging allegiance to him. He hated Chu Feng to the core, but at the same time, he had no lack of bad taste. That was why he supported these dark organizations. Whoever can kill Chu Feng or his friends, I'll cleanse his marrow and help him evolve. I'll also bestow upon him a high-level evolutionary inheritance from the depths of the cosmos. Toward the end, Some of the entities in orbit began to urge those organizations to cause trouble for Chu Feng. Meanwhile, they themselves were preparing to descend. They hoped that the ground would be a bit more chaotic. Then, they would descend without being disturbed. In the end, the infernal and blood demons really did send people into the Eastern Territories. They wanted to take appropriate actions to show the extraterrestrials. But the results were terrifying. Only one person from the Infernal Society managed to escape. He was extremely terrified. This is too terrifying. We just entered the East when we were captured alive by the mine owner and sent to dig underground. There's no daylight there. This is too inhumane. I object. Who said we're a terrorist organization? The mine owner is. The outside world was in a daze. Although they all knew that certain industries in the East were unfathomable, it was still shocking to see a member of a dark organization act in such a manner. I object seriously. This is too inhumane. Some of the mine owners in the East are dangerous. They're the true terrorist organizations. The infernal and blood demons were actually protesting and negotiating. Many people were speechless. Without a doubt, this was Lu Tong's doing. He was about to leave the Hollow Jade Temple and was using his current authority to help Chu Feng deal with some fleas. Chu Feng was dumbfounded after hearing this. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At the same time, the dragoness had come to personally invite him to explore the true dragon's lair in the Eastern Sea. She told him that there was an unlimited supply of thunderstruck wood there. At first, Chu Feng had directly refused because he wasn't ready. He wasn't strong enough and the time wasn't ripe. However, he changed his mind after seeing the dragoness flying machine. It was a flying saucer with extreme speed. After asking, Chu Feng understood that the dragoness had come directly from the Eastern Sea. She was piloting the flying saucer she had obtained from the ruins at the bottom of the sea. It could be said that she was as fast as lightning. How's the weapon system? Chu Feng's eyes lit up. It's very powerful. Even shackled realm entities would find it difficult to survive an attack from it, the dragoness replied. Chu Feng's eyes immediately lit up. He told the dragoness that it wasn't a problem for him to help her explore the true dragon's lair, but he had to borrow her flying saucer first. Sure, no problem. But can I ask what you want to do? The dragoness was curious. Deal with those extraterrestrials in space. Chu Feng replied. The dragoness' mouth was wide open as though she had seen a ghost. He wanted to fight in space. On this day, Lu Tong contacted Chu Feng urgently and told him that the extraterrestrials were descending together. 5 experts were diving toward Earth at the same time. Chu Feng, you're dead for sure. At first, everything went smoothly. The golden-haired man unfurled his snow-white wings and approached Earth. His eyes lit up as he swore to kill Chu Feng's group as soon as he successfully descended. A bastard native actually dares to kill the Dark Rock King and eat the Tiger King? You're truly courting death. It was hard to imagine that the purple-robed beauty would be so fierce as to say such words. As for the 3 demonic godlike entities, they were standing on meteorites, erupting with terrifying auras as they descended toward Earth. Chu Feng, I'm about to leave the Hollow Jade Temple. Before leaving, I'll give you a big gift. Lu Tong told Chu Feng to pay attention to the live broadcast. In truth, the descent of the 5 extraterrestrials was captured by various countries and broadcasted live across the globe. Extraterrestrial bastards, I represent the Infernal Society to judge you. You filthy, conceited, and arrogant invaders, please receive your doomsday baptism. It was at this time that a masked person from the Infernal Society announced the news. Boom! Before long, a number of supersonic missiles whistled through the air from the Western Hemisphere. They took to the skies and were about to bombard the 5 extraterrestrials. It wasn't us who fired them. The Infernal Society was stunned at first, but then they panicked and didn't know what to do. My blood demon organization will also kill these extraterrestrial bastards. Those who offend Earth will be killed no matter how far away they are. Everyone was dumbfounded after hearing such shocking words. What was going on? Following which, they saw a number of supersonic missiles whistling through the air. At the same time, Lu Tong told Chu Feng that this was the authority the Hollow Jade Temple had stolen from overseas. The supersonic weapons that belonged to those two organizations had been fired by Lu Tong on their behalf. Afterward, Lu Tong left the Hollow Jade Temple. In truth, the results were miraculously good. In the end, the supersonic weapons intercepted the missiles and caused a huge explosion. No one had expected this to create such a huge problem for the extraterrestrials. That was because they had to use their own energy to resist the explosion. In the end, the mysterious runes in Earth's void intensified. Some people fell into a dangerous situation and almost died on the spot. This works too. The Infernal Society and Blood Demon Organization are truly loyal. Look, these supersonic weapons are very useful. They might be able to kill the extraterrestrials. Everyone watching the live broadcast was dumbfounded. Afterward, many people began to praise the extraterrestrials. Loyal my ass. Damn you. At this time, the Infernal Society and Blood Demon Organization were on the verge of tears. They wanted to explain that this wasn't their doing. Chapter 385. The whole world was watching this live broadcast. The extraterrestrials had arrived, and there were 5 of them at once. Moreover, each of them was stronger than the previous Dark Rock King and the multicolored tiger. Now, they had descended together. It was fine if they failed, but who knew what would happen if they succeeded? At first, many people were apprehensive and terrified. Naturally, the secret guides were incomparably excited. If the 5 extraterrestrials succeeded, their status would rise with the tide, and they would become extraterrestrial agents. However, the result of what happened before their eyes was flabbergasting and out of everyone's expectations. High up in the sky, a creature covered in black metal armor was standing on a meteorite. At first, he was like a demonic god looking down on the earth. But now, he was screaming miserably. Those supersonic missiles had already exploded just now, but no one had expected the aftermath to be even more terrifying. The violent explosion couldn't injure the extraterrestrials. They were extremely powerful and didn't fear firearms. However, the energy in the sky was too intense. It caused various patterns to appear in the void like flowing molten iron. They were abnormally brilliant and caused terrifying consequences. This was the mysterious energy of Earth itself being drawn out. Crack! A demonic, godlike extraterrestrial roared in the sky as the meteorite beneath his feet split open. Following a loud boom, the meteorite exploded and light shot into the sky. This was caused by the interweaving mysterious patterns on Earth, forming a crushing force. That extraterrestrial's body trembled as his armor was damaged, following which he began to cough up blood as terrifying cracks appeared on his body. That was because he had been covered by the brilliant patterns in the sky. The surging energy was currently suppressing him mercilessly. This extraterrestrial disintegrated and his armor fell apart. He was both shocked and furious as he roared in terror. However, it was useless. No matter how he struggled, he was ultimately crushed and destroyed in both body and soul. An extraterrestrial had died just like that. He wasn't killed by a missile directly, but he had died because of it. The whole world was silent. Everyone who saw this scene felt it was unreal. An extraterrestrial expert stronger than the Dark Rock King and the multicolored tiger had died just like that. The Infernal Society is domineering. The Blood Demon Society is mighty. Many people cried out loudly. As they saw it, these two dark organizations weren't careless at the critical moment. They turned around and attacked the extraterrestrials, killing a supreme expert. People felt that this was rare and commendable. Even if these two organizations did not have a good reputation in the past, they were now worthy of praise. In order to kill the aliens, they pretended to surrender to the enemy and paralyze the alien experts. At the critical moment, they stepped forward and killed the invaders. A great chivalrous person does not care about personal reputation and is unfazed by honor or disgrace. It can be said that only by crossing the vast ocean can a hero's true nature be revealed. In an instant, there were such exaggerated praises. Many people couldn't help but twitch the corners of their mouths when they heard this. The internet was bustling with activity. As for the Infernal Society and Blood Devil organization's members, they had long since become stupefied. Then they began to cry. This type of praise was simply unbearable. If the aliens were to descend, wouldn't they be devoured alive? They really wanted to stomp their feet and retort. They wanted to explain seriously, but who would believe them? Calm down. You have to be calm in the face of major events. The leader of the Infernal Hell Society tried to comfort himself, but he also told his subordinates to remain calm and not panic. Let's wait and see. The higher-ups of the Blood Demon Party also ordered with a green face. The effects of the missiles had triggered a heated discussion among the people, which was beyond their expectations. Without a doubt, the upper echelons of various countries and some of the top powers had their eyes lit up. A few missiles had killed an alien. This was a result that far exceeded their expectations. Now, many people's confidence had doubled. There were many of these weapons on Earth. If they were to shed all pretense of cordiality and start a war, they would definitely be able to blast apart the alien that was rushing toward Earth. This was an unexpected joy. After this battle, the various countries felt that Earth wasn't as weak as they had imagined. Of course, there are also people who poured cold water on this. They were more pessimistic and believed that the mysterious patterns on Earth wouldn't last long and would eventually be completely erased. At the same time, there were people with ulterior motives who advised against using firearms. The aliens weren't to be trifled with, so they absolutely couldn't use force. Look, it's a flying saucer. People cried out in alarm. A silver-gray flying saucer soared into the sky and approached the area where the four descenders were. It then opened fire with all its might. Chu Feng had arrived. He naturally couldn't sit still after seeing the results of the missiles. He had originally wanted to take the initiative to attack with the flying saucer, but now he was even more excited. If he could take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of these people, that would truly be a pleasant surprise. Your provocation will lead to an intense collision between two civilizations. You won't be able to bear the consequences. You will become the sinner of Earth. The golden-haired man spoke. At the same time, he used his spirit to transmit his voice, which could travel even further and surpass the speed of sound. How disgusting and hypocritical. Can you represent a civilization? How can you even utter such threats? Wait until you can descend alive before saying that. Chu Feng was disdainful. Boom. At the same time, a beam of energy shot out from the flying saucer. It was like a sharp and resplendent divine spear as it flew toward the golden-haired man. Chi, the golden-haired man evaded. With the divine wings on his back, his spiritual senses were extremely sharp and could warn in advance. At this moment, his eyes were eerie as he stared at the flying saucer and shouted once again, "Stop! Do you want to provoke a terrifying collision between two civilizations? We came with sincerity not to conquer Earth, but to spread the flames of an even more advanced civilization. We view this place as our home." After hearing this, Chu Feng was extremely unhappy and berated with a heavy tone. Earth used to be ranked 11th in the cosmos. From the perspective of evolution, we used to look down on extraterrestrials of your level. What right do you have to say you're bringing the flames of an even more advanced civilization? You're clearly here to loot and seize the various remains left behind from ancient times to promote the evolution and prosperity of your respective planets. You bunch of disgusting bandits, don't flatter yourself too much when you open your mouth. It will only make people want to vomit and feel disgusted. When these words were spoken, the extraterrestrials in the sky were both shocked and furious. From her point of view, Earth had already declined. It was indeed incomparably glorious in the past and intimidated myriad realms. But those creatures who had created Earth's resplendent era had all been killed off. This place had fallen into the decline, and the natives of this planet were nothing. Even if there were descendants of those people, their bloodlines had long since become mottled and impure. You have mixed blood dare to speak to us like this. When we descend in a while, we'll definitely make you distinguish right from wrong and reflect on your actions. You'll wish you were dead. The lady in the purple dress spoke. Her skin was snow white and her appearance was beautiful. She was indeed a beauty, but her words were rather excessive. Her attitude was excessively arrogant. When she mentioned the current races on Earth, she was full of disdain and didn't view them as equals at all. The expressions of the people on the global live broadcast changed after hearing these words. They were filled with anger and sullenness because they could feel the attitude of the extraterrestrials. What was that? They were high and mighty, looking down on the creatures on Earth, as if they were looking down on inferior races. This was too excessive and humiliating. It's Chu Feng. Why is he flying a flying saucer? Many people had already recognized Chu Feng's voice and were astonished. Chu Feng, get rid of them. This extraterrestrial bitch is too disgusting. What do they have to be conceited about? Back in the day, our Earth was ranked 11th and was enough to look down on them. At that time, they were probably still a barbaric planet. Now they're invading us and are still so arrogant. Destroy them. Many people were shouting and waving their fists at the screen. They were all furious. Although they knew that their roars couldn't reach the sky and that Chu Feng couldn't hear them, they still expressed the indignation and sullenness in their hearts. Chu Feng spoke once again. During the Earth's glorious era, your planet was mostly a primitive tribe. Now you've come to seek a sense of existence. You're acting like a nouveau riche. This is enough to show that you're lacking in confidence. This is the embodiment of a guilty conscience. Apparently, he, who usually had a cheap mouth, was now being stabbed in the heart by the extraterrestrials. You'll die without a doubt. The slender body of the purple-dressed woman trembled as she pointed at the flying saucer. Her snow-white face was somewhat distorted as she gnashed her teeth. Native, you deserve to die. The golden-haired man spread his snow-white wings and shouted. Now, they were somewhat relieved because they had already passed through the most dangerous area and weren't too far from the ground. Boom! Boundless energy beams responded to them. Chu Feng had been firing all along, but the extraterrestrials had learned their lesson and were now using all kinds of trump cards to defend themselves. They had secret weapons on them, which could automatically draw energy without needing to be activated to help them block the calamity. The mysterious patterns on Earth appeared once again and interweaved together to crush the enemy. Doubtlessly, these secret weapons had diverted the majority of the energy attack. Extraterrestrials, you're too weak. You're dead for sure. Chu Feng frantically pressed the buttons on the flying saucer's weapon system without any regard for the cost. The dragoness almost died from heartache. This was an energy source that couldn't be regenerated. This flying saucer was dug out by the marine race from some ruins. Although it could be controlled, it couldn't be effectively replenished. Boom, boom, boom. The air boiled and all kinds of energy beams interweaved, causing the Earth's protective runes to continuously recover. It was originally aimed at creatures from other star regions, but now it was even more terrifying. Black Boss Toad, you guys control it. I'll go out and take care of them. Chu Feng didn't feel satisfied and wanted nothing more than to kill these extraterrestrials. He called for the golden condor and actually left the flying saucer with his Buddhist staff in hand. The remaining 4 extraterrestrials in the air were in a dangerous situation. They had never imagined that they would provoke such trouble just as they were about to land on Earth. Creatures far inferior to them actually dared to attack them. Boom! A silver arc of lightning appeared in the air and struck the golden-haired man, causing him to stagger back. His body was almost pierced through. This was a warning sign that he might encounter a calamity, following which, an expert standing on a meteorite roared furiously. His strength was too high, and he encountered an even fiercer obstruction from Earth. A series of patterns enveloped him and almost tore him into pieces. Extraterrestrials, your Grandpa Chu is here. Die! Chu Feng shouted loudly. He held the Buddhist staff in his hand and circulated the thunderous breathing technique. His expression was solemn and dignified as he waved it out with all his might. A golden-bodied old Buddha appeared in the air and chanted sutras. Then, he suddenly slapped forward with a gigantic palm that blotted out the sun. Boom! This place immediately boiled over and Buddhist light illuminated everything, causing a great disturbance. In truth, this kind of attack was even more effective than firearms. It triggered an even more astonishing defensive power from Earth against the outsiders. In front, the Buddhist race's special energy spread out and caused countless patterns to light up. The mysterious power of Earth was awakening to kill the enemy. Crack! Some of the extraterrestrials' secret weapons were shattered. Oh no! The lady in purple screamed. She was in a sorry state after being crushed by the mysterious power. She coughed up large mouthfuls of blood, and her hair was disheveled for a moment. Boom! Lightning exploded near the golden-haired man. One of his arms had been severed and directly disappeared from his body. He was drenched in blood. Ah! He roared and stared at Chu Feng with awe-inspiring eyes. However, they didn't dare to launch a terrifying attack, because the more powerful the energy they released, the greater the backlash from the Earth. Ha! You nouveau riche want to come to Earth to show off your might. This is the result. Run naked. Chu Feng laughed loudly. The black and white grinding stone within his body could frantically absorb energy to replenish his needs. Even though the attack just now had consumed a great deal of energy, it was quickly replenished. It could be said that the black and white grinding stone was heaven-defying. This kind of item would make people's eyes red, even in the outer realms and the starry seas. It was impossible to pass it down unless the top-grade orthodoxies had produced bodhisattvas and demonic sages. Boom! Chu Feng brandished the Buddhist staff once again and attacked frantically. Ah! The lady cried out in alarm. She fled in a sorry state and tried every means to evade, but to no avail. One of her legs was enveloped by the Buddhist light and suffered serious injuries. Following which, the patterns on Earth extended and, with a puff, severed her slender legs like a heavenly blade. Blood sprayed down. No, I hate you. She was on the verge of despair because reality was too cruel. It was completely different from what she had imagined. She thought she could rule over Earth and open up all kinds of ruins. Then, she would evolve rapidly and obtain the opportunity to become a sage ancestor. But now it seemed she was nothing. Her fate was quite pitiful. Don't attack again. We can sit down and talk. She screamed. It's better if you talk with the Dark Rock King and the others. Chu Feng said coldly and waved the Buddhist staff once again. Puffed. This time, the greater half of the lady's body disappeared. The energy from the earth had been drawn over and covered her. Ah! She screamed miserably and struggled with all her might. But it was useless. Her entire body exploded and turned into a bloody mist. She was filled with regret and boundless terror as her body and soul were destroyed. Ah! The two demonic, godlike figures also disintegrated and perished in the void. Following which, the golden-haired man screamed, struggled, and roared. He was already terrified and couldn't resist at all. The mysterious patterns on Earth were destroying everything. In the end, he let out a mournful howl as he watched his body break apart inch by inch and turn into a bloody mist in the void. He was in complete despair. He also died miserably and was covered in blood. Chu Feng retracted his hand and said, "Extraterrestrials are too weak." Chapter 386. The 5 extraterrestrials were all dead. Not a single one survived. Earth fell into a momentary silence. Many people who had personally witnessed this scene felt their mouths go dry. They were all stunned. Before this, people had guessed all kinds of possibilities, but they had never imagined that the extraterrestrials would be completely wiped out. This was a group of invincible beings that were difficult to defeat. According to people's original predictions, there would be a great upheaval on Earth. When the time came, blood would flow like rivers and many people would die. Who would have thought that Chu Feng's flying saucer would actually lead to such an outcome? The scene before their eyes was truly subversive. The 5 terrifying extraterrestrials had been wiped out before they could even get close to the Earth's surface. Even now, many people's ears were still echoing with Chu Feng's words. The extraterrestrials are too weak. These words were too domineering. No one else but Chu Feng dared to say such words. The group of people came to their senses and felt incomparably crazy. Well done. Those extraterrestrials were arrogant and conceited. They looked down on the Earthlings as if they were inferior races. They hadn't even descended yet and already wanted to kill this and that. They treated the natives with disdain. They only have themselves to blame for this outcome. Almighty Immortal Chu, to be able to kill these extraterrestrials like this is truly satisfying and satisfying. Everyone was boiling with excitement. In truth, the 5 extraterrestrials were all extremely powerful. One was like a demonic god and actually descended from a meteorite hundreds of meters in diameter. Another was like an angel in Western mythology with a pair of snow-white wings on his back. To many people, these were gods. However, the final result was that they all died in Chu Feng's hands. The entire world's attention was focused on this battle. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. The 5 experts who had arrived with overbearing momentum had their lives reaped. It was somewhat unreal. All the major corporations were shocked out of their wits. This Demon King, Chu, was truly crazy. He had flown a flying saucer into space and taken the initiative to kill the extraterrestrials. Which ordinary person would dare do such a thing? They felt that this was a madman who simply couldn't be provoked. These extraterrestrials were all killed just because they threatened him. At this moment, all the major corporations' expressions changed at the mention of Chu Feng. They felt that they absolutely couldn't afford to provoke Chu Feng in the future. This fellow was too bold and extremely dangerous. Boss, are you trying to defy the heavens? Xiong Kuan, Hu Sheng, Du Huijin, and Ouyang Qing were all dumbfounded. On Mount Putuo, Jiang Luoshan also felt that everything was unreal. Her bright red lips formed an O shape. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief. An old man on Mount Patala was all smiles. Hero Luoshan, you aren't young anymore. You've even shared a pillow with Chu Feng before. Why don't you consider him? I feel that this young man is a bit demonic. He hasn't fallen even after 100 battles. If you don't seize him now, who knows if there won't be another chance in the future. Jiang Luoshan rolled her eyes. I'm not even 23 yet. How am I old? In Shuntian, the masters of the Hollow Jade Temple and the 8 Visions Temple were silent after witnessing the battle. The Infernal Society and the Blood Demon Society immediately issued a statement, saying that they had made their choice and would always stand on Chu Feng's side. This was because the upper echelon members of these 2 organizations were terrified out of their wits. Even the extraterrestrials had been defeated. If they dared to take any chances, they would probably die without a burial ground. At the North Pole, the people of the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave were in a complicated mood. Some had dark expressions, while others were shocked. They were also extraterrestrials. After hearing Chu Feng's last words, their feelings were indescribable. They viewed the descenders who came later as competitors, but when they saw them die tragically, they also felt a sense of sympathy for them. Fortunately, we descended early. If you want to fight us, you'll have to rely on your own abilities. There's nothing to worry about. Someone said. Princess Lin was in a peculiar mood. She had never imagined that news about Chu Feng would be so explosive. This person simply wouldn't stop until he shocked everyone to death. When she thought of the bet with Chu Feng, her mind was in a mess. She quickly calmed her emotions and muttered to herself. The heavens' prides from the outer realms, the divine sons from all over, and even the princes of the ancient imperial dynasties are about to arrive. Let's see if he can continue to defy the heavens. Following which, she shook her head. The young heavens' prides from some planets were simply heaven's chosen ones. They were ridiculously powerful, and even her father's generation was considering joining the orthodoxies of the top 100 planets. This Chu Feng is a bit evil. Do you guys think he'll really be able to defeat those Buddhist sons and princes in the future? This planet has declined in the end. Its fortune has been lost, and it can no longer produce such terrifying characters. Although this Chu Feng isn't bad, he can't compare to those divine sons and saintesses. The disparity is too great. This was the attitude of some people in the North Pole. Even though they were all descenders, there were differences in status. Some of the orthodoxies that had shaken the world since ancient times could be called heaven's chosen ones. Relatively speaking, how could the creatures of such a backward place, a wasteland, compare to the divine princes of those ancient planets with brilliant evolutionary civilizations? How regretful. I've broken my vows. Sigh. In the air, Chu Feng was sitting on the back of the golden condor with a disappointed and frustrated expression. What did he mean? People were still watching the live broadcast and staring at the screen. They didn't know what he was regretting or feeling. What's wrong? The black yak and the others drove the flying saucer closer and were a bit worried. Chu Feng shook his head and said, "We agreed that the divine sons would be suppressed as servants and the saintesses would be captured to warm the bed. In the end, I accidentally killed them." Everyone, dizzy, everyone was speechless. This fellow was too ostentatious. Even if he wanted to put into action, he should have said it in private. He actually said it in such a melancholy manner on a global live broadcast. Mount Lao, the famous mountain occupied by celestial biology. Linoy was originally watching the live broadcast quietly, but her face immediately darkened after hearing what he said. What kind of words were these? Brother, take it easy. The live broadcast is still going on, and many people are watching you. The black yak reminded. You should have said so earlier. With a swoosh, Chu Feng disappeared and entered the flying saucer. Chu Feng, I want to have children with you. At this time, many young female evolvers didn't hold back and shouted at the screen. Even though they knew he couldn't hear them, they still shouted excitedly and impulsively. In any case, the impact of this battle was huge. Chu Feng's popularity soared. Before long, a flying saucer flew across the sky toward Mount Kunlun. The current Mount Kunlun belonged to the co-management region. The corporations, the Hollow Jade Temple, the Marine race, and many other powers had representatives here. Back then, the great demons of Mount Kunlun had retreated helplessly after their realm had fallen. Now, the old Lama, the Mastiff King, and the others had returned, but those people were still unwilling to leave. They had been haggling for a share of Mount Kunlun's benefits. The old Lama was very powerful and had grasped a golden Arhut-level breathing technique. He had a good temper and didn't make a big fuss even though his cultivation had reached a profound level. There is no need to mention the Mastiff King. He was one of the first experts with 6 severed shackles, and now he was even more powerful. The great demons of Mount Kunlun didn't chase them away. This caused those people to hold onto a wishful thinking and hope to divide up some territory. They were unwilling to leave. However, the deadlock had been broken. Many people were flustered and prepared to leave immediately. Run. What's the matter? Chu Feng has arrived. It said that he wants to kill everyone who refuses to leave. Mount Kunlun was in chaos. The peace had been broken and the deadlock had been broken. Chu Feng saw a group of fleeing figures after emerging from the flying saucer. He was puzzled and puzzled. Everyone, why are you running? Why don't you sit down and have a chat? He shouted from behind. Run. Demon King Chu is going to massacre us. He wants to wash us in blood. Run. The group of people had gone mad and were running for their lives. They hated themselves for being born with a pair of legs. All of them ran as fast as lightning, as though they were in a rush to reincarnate. Many people were pale and frightened out of their wits. The Mastiff King, the Horse King, the Snow Leopard King, the Spider Demon, and the Weaver King walked out from the mountains. Brother Chu's name is indeed useful. He's just revealed himself, and these people immediately ran away, abandoning Mount Kunlun's benefits. He's really mighty. In truth, many people felt that Chu Feng could be used as a god of plague. Just by standing there, he could create a silent street. With a swoosh, the group of great demons of Mount Kunlun surrounded him. They were exceptionally affectionate as they met. This was a friendship born from going through trials and tribulations together. Brother Chu Feng is becoming more and more powerful. His name has shaken the world, and he even killed extraterrestrials. How delightful! After so many days, the group of great demons had made great progress. Many of them had evolved to a higher level, but none of them could sever their seventh shackle. The old Lama was very powerful, but even he couldn't take that step. That was because the pollen and fruits on the continent could only help creatures reach the sixth shackle realm. The elder Lion King looked at Chu Feng with a complicated expression. He had been subdued and became a member of Mount Kunlun, serving as the old Lama's mount. Back then, the elder Lion King was invincible during the war between the East and West. He had never imagined that Chu Feng would be so powerful today. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. Mount Kunlun was once again under the control of the great demons. What was even rarer was that Chu Feng had also returned. They were celebrating. Chu Feng finally saw the Horse King's daughter. She was 2 meters tall. The Horse King's bald head was shining as he dragged his daughter through the crowd in search of Chu Feng. Chu Feng was so frightened that he turned tail and ran away. "Brother, why are you running?" "I think the Horse King's daughter is very beautiful. I can't help but feel pity for her," the Black Yak shouted from behind. The Horse King's ears were very sharp. He heard this from far away and immediately said angrily, "Old Black, what do you mean? You want to hit on my daughter again? I'll fight it out with you. Handsome big brother Chu Feng, I want to have children with you." Chu Feng had just escaped and found some peace when a sudden voice rang out, scaring him out of his wits. He turned back just in time to see a shockingly beautiful problem lady running toward him. She was wearing smoky makeup and was exceedingly charming. "How come you're here?" Chu Feng was flabbergasted. This problem lady had actually come to Mount Kunlun. Where's the old Taoist? He reckoned he wasn't far away. "My grandfather wants to enter the home of myriad gods. We've been here for many days. Handsome big brother Chu Feng, I really missed you." The rebellious girl's large eyes fluttered about in a rather charming manner. Chu Feng was shocked out of his wits. Although this girl was excessively mature and rarely beautiful, she was actually only 12 or 13 years old. She was far from being an adult. He really felt a bit guilty. He was with the old Taoist granddaughter behind his back. If he were to be discovered by that old fellow, there would definitely be pandemonium, especially since this girl was too bold. She even dared to talk about having children with a monkey. If the old Taoist were to hear this, who knew what kind of misunderstanding he would have? Suddenly, Chu Feng heard the old Taoist's soft rebuke and the toad's curses. "You ox nose, old bastard, black dog spirit. Don't you know who I am? I'm the former master of Mount Kunlun, the younger brother of the immortal sister. How dare you behave atrociously in front of me? Io, damned old Taoist, you really dare to hit me? This grandpa will fight it out with you." In the distance, there was a huge commotion. When Chu Feng rushed over, he saw that Toad Ouyang Feng's face was swollen and bruised. It had been beaten up badly, but it refused to accept it. It was cursing the old Taoist loudly, angering the old Taoist so much that his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. "Oxnose, why don't you try hitting me again?" "Damn, you're really hitting me? Damn your grandpa. If you dare to touch me again, I'll let that silver devil king, Chu Feng, hook up with your granddaughter. Io, this grandpa is in so much pain. Where did this wild Taoist come from? How can he be so powerful?" The toad had been beaten up miserably, but it refused to surrender verbally. When the Taoist turned around, he happened to see his granddaughter walking over with Chu Feng in tow. His face, as black as the bottom of a pot, immediately turned green as he said furiously, "Brat, you're really hooking up with my granddaughter." This toad was right. Chu Feng felt that he had been wronged. "Taoist, how have you been?" Chu Feng tried to curry favor with him. "I haven't seen you for a while, but you've become more and more immortal." "Immortal my *s. This damned old Taoist is simply an old ruffian. He's not a good person just now," said the toad. Bang, bang, bang. Ouyang Feng let out a blood-curdling screech as he was sent flying. Early the next morning, a flying saucer soared through the sky. Chu Feng had promised the dragoness to go to the true dragon's lair in the Eastern Sea. Yellow cattle, the Manchurian tiger, the old donkey, the golden eagle, and the black yak also accompanied him. Of course, Ouyang Feng couldn't be missed. In addition, the toad had used Chu Feng's name to invite the problem lady onto the flying saucer and took her away. He was taking revenge on the old Taoist because he hadn't brought him along. Moreover, the toad had left him a letter telling him to wait to become a great-grandfather. Chapter 387. Mount Lao was one of the birthplaces of Taoism. It was adjacent to the sea and could sit and watch the raging waves beat against the shore, the ebb and flow of the ocean. In ancient times, it was also known as Prison Mountain or Lao Mountain. It was the highest peak along the coastline of ancient China and was known as the most famous mountain in the sea. As early as the Qin dynasty, a group of alchemists had been researching the art of longevity here. Additionally, there was a record that King Fuchai had ascended Mount Lao and obtained the scripture of expiation. In the distance, the white waves were beating against the cliffs and the blue sea was surging on a magnificent scale. The green pines and cypresses on the mountain were fresh and tender as if they were carved from jade. They were accompanied by white mist, and the dense energy particles here were a typical spirit realm scenic spot. After the upheavals, Mount Lao had become even more extraordinary. The plants on the mountain were all glowing with spirituality. Be it the beautiful purple flowers or the emerald green wisteria, they were all filled with spirituality. Now, this place had become a holy land of celestial biology. The Taoist temples were simple and unadorned. There were dozens of them distributed in different areas and suffused with white mist. It looked like a fairyland with a faintly discernible feeling. On some of the spiritual peaks, thousand-year-old Taoist temples were faintly discernible, accompanied by green pines, white mist, and silver waterfalls. Some white cranes danced and circled around the different spiritual peaks, making this area look more and more like an immortal residence. On a certain cliff, in front of an unremarkable Taoist temple, an old pine tree wriggled like a young dragon. There weren't many pine needles, but they were filled with dense vitality. This ancient pine tree was entirely silvery white. This was one of its miraculous aspects. Its pine nuts possessed astonishing effects. It was currently the #1 tree on Mount Lao and could help people sever their sick shackle. On a distant spiritual peak, people were chatting and gazing over. All of them were the upper echelons of celestial biology. On the cliffs, the ancient silver pine tree was vigorous and vigorous. Its cracked bark was similarly silvery white. Linoy stood elegantly under the tree. Her fine black hair was flowing in the wind, and each strand was sparkling and translucent. Her face was exquisite and flawless as she gazed at the boundless blue waves of the ocean. Her heart was also filled with great waves. Naoi, it's time to make a decision. A middle-aged woman in her 30s walked over. She had a beautiful face and a pair of deep and profound eyes. She was dressed fashionably in modern clothing. However, she had an ancient hairstyle with a golden hairpin in between her hair. Sparkling and translucent beads hung down from it, as well as all kinds of other hair accessories, all of them sparkling and dazzling. That person is extremely talented and has a great background. He comes from a dynasty of evolvers. This type of Tao can be said to be exceptionally terrifying. Its accumulation is extremely deep, with tens of millions of years of foundation, overlooking a region of the starry skies. It can be said to be a colossus, said the middle-aged beauty. She arrived 22 years ago, but she did not sleep in the North Pole. Instead, she lived in another place. She was one of the backers of celestial biology. There were aliens lurking near the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave and the Cheelant's Nest. A man walked out of the small Taoist temple. From the outside, he looked to be only 27 or 28 years old. He was very handsome, and there was a dark red pattern between his eyebrows. He had a bewitching aura. He also came to the silver pine tree in front of the cliff and looked at the magnificent blue sea. Naoi, that genius from the dynasty of evolvers, is in the depths of the folded space on Mount Lao. As long as you bring him here, this world will be yours, said the handsome man. The dark red pattern between his eyebrows was sparkling and translucent. Not far out, the old woman whose body was half burned was extremely respectful and quiet, standing guard at the side. She was only the servant of the handsome man and beautiful middle-aged woman. This planet was once ranked frighteningly high in the cosmos. Even though it has declined, there's still all kinds of holy objects glowing in the gravel and lying in disarray among the ruins. Many years ago, we discovered an energy pagoda in your body. This is your fortune, and no one could take it out. Now, you can use it as a bridge to connect the folded space and construct a safe passage. The prince of the dynasty of evolvers is peerless in his generation and can be called the Heaven's Chosen. You are also the Heaven's Chosen woman. Bring him here. Only he is worthy of you. You two are a perfect match. This planet that was once ranked 11th in the cosmos will become the place where the two of you rise to power. Naoi, make a decision quickly. The man and woman had solemn expressions as they earnestly advised her. Amen, Linoy replied while gazing at the blue sea. Chu Feng and the others drove the flying saucer as fast as lightning. They crossed the vast skies from Kunlun and soon arrived at the shore of the Eastern Sea. That was because the dragoness was waiting here. She didn't follow them to Kunlun. Dragoness, we've arrived. Chu Feng contacted her. The dragoness appeared on the shore. Her blue hair was draped over her shoulders, and her smile was bright and beautiful. She was very happy that Chu Feng was able to keep his promise and come. I'll say this in advance. You have to ensure our safety, said Chu Feng. He didn't want to fight the Elder Dragon King and the others in the sea. That wasn't his home ground. You are my Eastern Sea's honored guests. The Southern Sea Dragon race won't dare to act impudently here. The dragoness smiled to reassure them. Oh, this place is close to Mount Lao. As the flying saucer flew across the sky, Chu Feng saw the distant spiritual mountain. It was covered in rising clouds, and the density of energy there was astonishing. He thought of Linoy. Celestial biology had occupied this place. Yellow Cattle said, Mount Lao used to be home to an astonishingly powerful imperial court of evolvers. Terrifying experts often rode quasi-divine beast carriages to roam the sea of stars and visit many stars. His small face was solemn as he stared at the Mount Lao region. This was the handwritten records of the predecessors he had seen in his own world. He had done some homework and read many documents before coming to Earth. Unfortunately, he was too young at that time, and the things he had grasped were limited. Chu Feng couldn't help but sigh. Earth was truly too glorious during a certain period of history. There used to be experts in great numbers, and the upper echelons of some orthodoxies had the ability to roam the sea of stars. This was simply unimaginable. The upper echelons of many evolutionary sects could roam the various star domains at will. How astonishing was this? At that time, for the powerhouses on Earth, visiting friends in other galaxies would be as easy as dropping in on someone else. Thinking back to the present, the Earth had declined into a withered wasteland. It was regrettable and lamentable. In the eyes of the extraterrestrial evolvers, the Earth had already become a barren wasteland. There was only a group of natives left here who couldn't amount to much. They had come to seize the Earth's last fortunes. One mountain, one path. It said that some beings from the star domains will descend upon Earth through special ancient paths. How come we haven't seen such people? Asked the Black Yak. They had discussed this question on Mount Olympus back then. Manchurian Tiger was also moved. That's right. Isn't there a damn god in the West? He first bewitched Schiller of the Vatican. Then he created the divine Sense Yamen. Later on, at Mount Zhejiang in Jiangning, an oracle, Abel, appeared and was burned to death. When will the mastermind appear? Previously, we thought he wasn't very strong and would soon take the risk to break through. Now, it seems this person isn't so simple. said Yellow Cattle. The more powerful the person, the more difficult and dangerous it would be for them to descend to Earth. The resistance they would face would be terrifying. Yellow Cattle said, comparatively speaking, it's easier to descend from the starry skies. It's much more difficult to walk out from the ancient paths in the folded spaces behind the famed mountains. However, the Earth's coordinates in the cosmos had long since been forgotten by the people of the starry skies. Not many people knew about it, and could only rely on some special ancient paths. Doubtlessly, the Earth was once a glorious era. Too many paths had been opened, and many of them were connected to the starry skies. It was a period of glorious times, but after the extreme splendor came complete darkness. The Earth was unable to recover after a setback. The most brilliant and talented predecessors of that era were all killed. Blood flowed like rivers, and the entire planet was left in ruins. We'll leave this place sooner or later, Chu Feng said from within the flying saucer. That's right. Our beast core will enter the starry skies sooner or later, said the black yak. It's the sage core, okay? It's the beauty core. The old Taoist granddaughter, the problem lady, also joined in on the fun. She was all smiles. Chu Feng and the others were very curious about which galaxy she came from and kept asking her. In the end, the little girl was very tight-lipped and refused to reveal her origins. Are you from the Alpha Galaxy? No. Judging from your appearance, you should be from a Sagittarius galaxy. The group teased. The dragoness reminded Chu Feng. You've killed extraterrestrials in succession. This isn't a good thing for you. Isn't there no other way? They came to find trouble with me, and I was only passively retaliating. Chu Feng shrugged helplessly. The flying saucer soared through the sky and left Mount Lao, entering the depths of the vast ocean. The world had undergone great changes and folded spaces were emerging in an endless stream. Even the ocean was no exception. It was 10 times longer from one place to another, and its surface area was close to 100 times. The depths of the ocean were strangely tranquil. There were no raging waves or howling gales. The blue sea was like a mirror, and the golden sun hung high in the sky, reflecting off the surface of the sea. We're here, the dragoness informed the group. She was in charge of steering the flying saucer. Boom! The flying saucer landed and split open the surface of the sea, entering the depths of the ocean. Oh my God, I don't know how to swim. Little dragoness, you'll have to take care of me in a while. The toad Ouyang Feng was fairly shameless. He was only a year old, but was shamelessly addressing the dragoness as little sister. I've never heard of a toad drowning, said the black yak. In truth, the toad's eyes were glowing with excitement. When he was born, his first form was that of a true dragon. He had even transformed into a bird before becoming a toad later on. Now that they were nearing the eastern sea and the dragon nest, he was incomparably excited. The underwater world wasn't dark at all. It was actually multicolored with all kinds of corals glowing. It was completely different from the past. They were sparkling and resplendent like clusters of torches. The dragoness smiled and told them that this was a good source of light. Chu Feng and the others revealed astonished expressions. This was the first time they had entered the ocean after the great changes. The scenery they saw was simply too beautiful, with the corals as the light source. The sea below was extremely resplendent. They saw houses made of seashells and temples made of fish bones. They were as white as jade, divine and flawless. They revealed odd expressions from time to time. There were too many races at the bottom of the ocean. Along the way, they saw many creatures they had never seen or heard of. All of them had residences at the bottom of the ocean. Additionally, they saw a number of mutant trees rooted on the ocean ridge. They were multicolored and bore fruits of various colors. One could tell at a glance that they were of an extraordinary species, causing one to drool with desire. However, there were sea beasts guarding these mutant trees. There were sharks hundreds of meters long, turtles the size of small mountains, humanoid monsters, and even birds with scales. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.